As I am.
All right, it is 7 o'clock. This is January 8th, 2015. This is the Litchfield Budget Committee meeting, and I'll call us to order. And if we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next item is public input. We, again, don't seem to have anybody in the public. Hopefully they're all watching at home. Review and additions to the agenda. One thing I do want to add at member input new business is just to talk a little bit about the hearing presentation for next Thursday. So if we could just have that conversation. And that's all I have, if there's anything else. Correspondence. I did email out a copy of the MS-27, what it looks like, what the school district numbers are, what the differences are to date, and our totals, because this is what we'll be using tonight to kind of reconcile any further changes. The other thing you should have received was Bill Spencer went through, and all the changes we made, he divided them up by the different categories, so you could kind of get a better picture of where the changes we made fit in. The other thing I emailed, and it was late tonight, it was probably a little after 5 o'clock, I emailed the warrant articles from the school district. So I think those are the only three things, pieces of correspondence this week, the last couple of days. Alrighty then, we'll jump right into school business and budget voting, and I think the first thing that we have is we have a tabled motion, and we probably ought to deal with that first, which is the salaries issue.
Yeah, you're looking for some information. What I have is two amounts for you. The total is $86,367. Of that, vacation payout is $50,262.57.
$262.57.
Yep. And severance payout is $36,104.89. Here's your pennies.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, which one?
All of them. So the vacation.
The total is 86.
I got that part.
Yep. The vacation payout is $50,262.57. The, what was the other one?
Severance payout.
Severance, $36,104.89.
How many positions do you have?
3.
3 positions. Why did that have to be done next year?
Because it actually should have probably been done last year.
Why did it have to be done next year?
Why not?
Why, that's it. Did it have to be done next year?
It's a negotiated settlement with those 3 individuals. You have to negotiate to cross over to a new contract. That's the maximum exposure to the district that will be paid out next year. Now, if the negotiations are able to pay it out later, we can do that. But right now, in order for us to have a new contract with those 3 individuals.
Why did the contract have to be?
I'm trying to finish, Bill. Okay. I guess you.
No, my question was, why did the contract have to be rewritten for the new severance arrangement for next year?
Because the board wanted all the administrators on the same new contract.
Didn't have to be done, though, next year. You could have retained the existing contract with them.
It could have been allowed with it. They wanted all
No.
the administrators on the same.
No, I understand, I
contract
just,
next year.
I understand that part, what they wanted, but didn't have to be that way. And as a result, it drives $80-some-odd thousand into next year's budget.
And then if we waited the following year, it would drive it even higher.
Assuming they continue to accumulate and don't use.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Or if you don't do it at all, then it's spread out whenever they leave. I mean, I understand why you want to do it. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just talking about why it had to be done when it was done. That's all. Okay. Now, this is the maximum
Correct.
exposure, and through negotiations, it could be less?
Could be.
If I can, it won't be less. It may be paid out differently. It may not necessarily all be paid out next year. They may defer some of it.
Thank you.
That is the exposure.
That's the exposure, but not necessarily what you...
Not necessarily all of it will be next year. We can't determine how much of it will be paid out. All of it could be paid out next year,
Wow.
because they may say, I want it all right now. Or they may say, I want to defer a portion of it and let it accrue until some, not accrue, but let it stand until, or take a different payout of it.
And you have to go into some sort of negotiation to
You have to negotiate
determine
each
when to do that.
And the
Why
other
is
thing
it a negotiation? I'm a little confused about that. Why is it a negotiation?
Because you can't
into that.
arbitrarily offer someone a new contract who's in an annual contract situation without making it essentially of substantially equal value. You can't simply decide to restructure the contract unless there's something related to an evaluation or anything like that, and just say, we decided this position isn't worth the money that we're paying you. There's a legal and labor law expectation that you can't just arbitrarily make that change in someone who's in an annual contract situation.
I'm not quite following this. You have a new contract with different severance arrangements on it, so we owe them money from the old contract?
All of the new contracts, all the people who've come on board in administration from my time forward have, in essence, no severance, no 1% a year, no earned time off that is accruable. The only thing that would be a financial commitment at severance would be any remaining vacation day payout, and that's capped at, well, it would be, maximum would be 1 year's vacation. So in my case, it would be 25 days of earned time off if I took no vacation that last year, because there's no rollover position within that. So it's really limited the long-term exposure of the district and the taxpayer to severance.
Okay.
So the rationale is the longer we wait to do that with the last three people, the more the ultimate exposure that has to be paid out over time.
Understand that, but I think what Cindy and I were trying to get at is, they have now signed the new contract?
No.
Have not?
This would be for next year, these contracts.
So...
They're under contract till June 30th of this year.
Okay.
These would be contracts that the superintendent would be recommending to the board.
And assuming they sign them for next year,
And then they sign it for next year.
okay? And then we were getting at the point of the $83,000 and whether it is paid out immediately or paid out over time, and that's where the negotiation discussion started. So I think your question was, what do you mean by negotiation? What's to negotiate?
How we pay it out, where they want to pay it out, do we pay it right away?
Because they may want to not get it paid out?
That's correct.
Because of
That's up
tax
to
purposes, for some reason or other?
Maybe tax consequences of the action, they may want to defer that.
Now, one of the options that we have is we could impose a settlement on them, but then you would have potentially either a Department of Labor complaint or a legal case. Now, depending on the amount of money, it may or may not be worth it for either side to pursue. The strongly preferred option is to find a negotiated settlement that basically moves those things that they're losing around, try to place a dollar value on it, and then find a solution that both sides can live with that will pay off that they've already accrued and make their contract moving forward be substantively of the same value.
That's completely understandable, what you're talking about there.
I mean, I know you agree with the intent.
Yeah.
Or I believe you would agree with the intent.
Yeah. The problem is what's the right number when we're talking about adding to the budget? I mean, that's what the problem is. Another question. These individuals are also part of the pool that you have in there for administrative raises? The $30,000?
They are included in that.
Yes, they would be.
Okay.
I have to caution, we can't go too much further because this is a discussion we had in non-public with the school board. And we're talking about impending negotiations with 3 individuals, and we have to be cautious how much we talk about it in public session.
Yeah, and I think we've been doing that so far.
Well, I'm concerned that we're going over the other side, however, because we're talking about strategy.
Well, if you're talking about adding $80,000 to the budget, then you have something in mind, and you've got to discuss with me
That's the
why you
maximum
have that.
exposure of the settlement
Yeah.
for next year.
Yeah. Okay.
Any further questions?
What was the exact motion that was tabled? Somebody was going to ask.
I think that was my motion.
Let's see, I gotta figure out what I did with those minutes. All right. Move to increase fiscal year 16 salaries and benefits accounts by 86,367 and 46 cents. It was seconded by Mr. Peoples. There was a discussion, and then there was a motion by Mr. Cutter to move to table the motion to increase the fiscal year recommended budget salaries and benefits account by 86,367. So that's the only, it was just increase the salary and benefits account.
Got it. Thank you.
And so do we have a motion on the table now?
The motion has been tabled. I might,
So another motion needs to be made, right?
to take it off the table, to reopen it?
Right.
Has that been made?
No.
No.
Okay.
You're up if you want to make a motion
I
to
thought you said it was an
add
open
it back in.
motion, so I thought it was.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
uh,
I'd like to make a motion to add $86,367 to salaries and benefits.
a motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it. For discussion.
Any further discussion?
I'd like to amend that to $40,000.
There's a motion to amend to $40,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Multiple seconds. Pick one. Discussion on the amendment.
Yeah, I have no problem with, I have a problem with how they've done it, but that's beside the point. I have no problem, if they're gonna do that, that there's gonna be money out there. I have a problem with the number that's been computed at 86, so I just have to.
And then if they accept,
Button,
and then if we have to pay it all out,
and then you take it out of the budget. And if they don't have to pay it all out, then you got money in the budget. I mean,
take it out of what? Educating the children?
pardon?
Take it out of education?
No, you can take it out of your buildings and grounds if you want to take it from someplace.
I think you've already taken enough out of that building.
No, we haven't.
All right. My concern is, as you get towards the end of the year, you're going to know if you have any unexpended funds, and you can make some decisions that then potentially free up that money for the following year. Where it's unknown, I understand the rationale behind it. I'm not sure why it's imperative to do it this year. I think where we stand with the budget, you know, we've taken some drastic measures, and it's still going to be a huge budget increase. So I'm not even feeling comfortable right now of adding anything. There's always some attrition, there's always some place, because we're budgeting a year and a half, in some cases 2 years ahead, there's going to be some place that I think you can, if you need to make that change, then you make it based on if you have money available. If not, then you're going to have to hold off a year.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
the motion was to amend.
Mhm. And I'm not in favor of the amendment nor the original.
Yeah, so-
To re-amend it.
You were going after the original when you said that. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't we vote to see if we want to amend?
If there's
and
no
then-
further discussion, all those in favor of the amendment to amend to $40,000, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Carrie,
I was an aye to amend.
I was a no, Cindy.
I was a no.
Noes.
Okay.
Whoa, what are we voting?
Well-
40.
Voting to go to 40. Okay, all those in favor of reducing it to 40, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and those opposed to? Okay, so the motion then fails, and back to the 86. It's-
Sorry, can Mr. Spencer vote no to a motion that he made?
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Somebody make
I-
It's
it.
fine.
I was swayed
It's
by her.
4-5, the motion fails.
I just didn't know that.
4-5-0.
That's why we have discussion.
All right, we are back to the main motion of 86,367. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I think that the point that you made was a very valid one, in terms of, at the end of the year, we'll know if we have money sitting around, and we can lock that in. I think it's the point you were making.
I just know, having sat on the other side before, that there have been numerous times that we've looked at salary adjustments. And usually it's based, and usually it's not even a budgeted item. It's usually taking a look and see where there's unexpended funds and if it can be done. And if it can't be done, it can't be done. And if it can be done, then you can move ahead with the adjustment. So having sat on that side of the table, I know that's possible.
Meaning from teacher vacancies or attrition where?
Whatever.
Those are some of the reasons, in other words, right? Okay.
Exchange. I think what you're doing, though, is you're making it difficult if we're going to go and negotiate with these individuals. And whatever the settlement is, come year end, we don't have that money. Then where do we go?
I think that's part of your negotiations. I mean, it has to be an open dialogue, whoever you're dialoguing with, it has to be an open dialogue. I mean, anybody could say no at any time.
I think it would be my recommendation back to the school committee not to go into those negotiations and keep those individuals in the old contract.
I would also suspect that while this isn't a union negotiation, I understand that, people could be accused of negotiating in bad faith.
That's correct. Without having money to fulfill the obligation that's agreed upon.
Correct.
The point, though, is that we are not recommending how you spend your money in your operating budget. We're recommending a bottom-line operating budget, and that does not preclude you from doing anything you want as far as negotiations are concerned.
Well, look at me, I'm not the...
No, I'm going across the table, Frank. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but even though we say it's not in the budget at this table, that's not true, because what we're going to vote on will be a $19 or $20 million budget. And you can have anything, and as we've been told many times, you can have anything you want in there. So we're not restricting anything in terms of that respect. And the other thing, I guess, that bothered me a little bit is that you haven't negotiated the contracts. You're planning on doing it, but you haven't done it. So it didn't even a fait accompli at this point. You know, I have a hard time with putting it in there.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to add to salaries and benefits account $86,367, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
So the motion fails 3-6-0. Actually, I did not ask it for abstentions. Were there any abstentions? Okay, 0. All righty, back then to any other votes on the school district's budget.
How do you want to work this, Cindy, from the top down or from the bottom up, or whatever motion?
Are we going to work off the MS-27?
Off the MS-27, so I would start at the top, and we'll work our way down.
Before you start working on reductions, can I work on some additions?
Absolutely.
I have a few of them. The first one I'd like to make a motion to add $99,720 to function 2721. That would be putting the 2 buses that were removed back into the budget.
Okay, there's a motion to
Second.
add $99,720 to 2721 buses, and there has been a second. Further discussion?
The 2 buses were removed by the Budget Committee, again, without a plan. we're, as a school district, have had, the school board, have had conversations, which we're still working on. There's no determination yet whether or not we can operate with 2 less buses. And removing them is just the wrong thing to do. Unless you have a plan, unless you have guarantees that it can operate. There's still negotiations that would have to take place with LMS as far as changing start time, end time, class size, class time, in order for it to even possibly work. So I think removing those buses, you're going to cause a lot of headaches and possibly not even be able to get kids to school.
I had asked for some information on the bus loads and schedules and times. Haven't seen anything.
Okay. As far as bus load, I mean, that's not going to change the need for a bus. Whether there's 16 kids on a bus or 18 kids on a bus, they're still doing the same routes,
Or
stopping.
10 on the bus, or what
Pardon me?
have you. It seems to me, if you're talking about a plan, that it's reasonable for us to understand what the bus loads are, to understand what your travel times are. And that's why I asked for the information. 'Cause I'm perfectly willing to listen to changes, but not just because you say, well, you shouldn't have taken it out.
But I'm curious to Mrs. Spencer, if you can explain to me, why would you remove 2 buses this year, but you didn't remove them last year? Buses are going the same place. You didn't remove them the year before either.
Why?
Yeah.
Because you had $1 million increase in the operating budget and a $800,000, $1 million decrease in the revenues. That's why.
Okay.
Serious problem that I think you folks wanted to address, and I think this committee had to address. That's why.
But I'm just curious why the buses?
Pardon?
Why buses?
Transportation. it wasn't
Because
the
the
bus.
school board raised the whole issue in the first place,
Yeah, because we're having.
as a logical thing to do. And I'm
Well-
asking you,
I wouldn't say it's a logical thing to eliminate 2 buses. It's logical to have discussions, is there a possibility?
have you got loads, bus loads? Have you got those? I mean, clearly, first student needs to have that, to understand, because they're doing the work. Where does that stand with first student,
What do you mean, where does it stand?
in terms of looking at whether it's feasible or not, to reduce the buses?
They're working on their first recommendation back to us in order to eliminate 1 and 2 buses would be to combine the high school and junior high run,
Mhm.
which we out of hand rejected.
Why?
Which one?
We rejected that concept.
Because we're not going to put 5th graders on with seniors. And I can
Look,
speak,
Listen, you do not have to get argumentative. There is a
well,
problem.
no, you
here.
asked why, and I just
Well,
told
I
you
just
why.
asked you why.
I don't think there are parents out there that want to put a 5th grader on the same school bus with juniors and seniors.
All
That's
right,
why.
and you're probably right, but I've also heard back when we moved the 5th grade up to the middle school, there was a huge outcry that how dare we put 5th graders with 8th graders? So
No, and I understand,
that,
but there's-
that's been a discussion over the years about what the appropriate bus load is. So I appreciate that, and we do understand.
But again, I don't think we can compare an 8th grader to a senior.
I understand.
So that's one of the reasons why the school board,
I was a second grader with high schoolers, so
what's that?
I said, without polling the parents, I don't know that we can accurately say that the entire town's opposed to it. So, I mean, there probably is a contingent opposed to it, but we don't know. We know that parents in town are facing $600 increases, and the school board did not attempt to try to mitigate that. So if we aren't going to cut teachers, where can we cut that does not directly impact the education of the students? The hands are tied if we can't touch salaries and those things. So other areas have got to be up for discussion. And I understand that it's a painful discussion, but I think we need to speak rationally and logically and without emotion. It's an objective discussion.
I agree with you. We have to get to a bottom line budget that the town can afford. And that's our job, is to get to one that they can afford and recommend something they can afford.
Could I just ask also for the sake of discussion, we were talking subtracting 2 buses. Now, again, for the sake of discussion, if it was 1 bus reduction instead of the 2, would that mean putting 5th graders with seniors?
Again, we're not certain yet. It's something that conversation started. It's a possible cut, but we don't have enough information to make a rational decision, an educational decision on whether or not that can be done.
To answer your question, we asked for a student to go back and look at having each bus service 3 schools individually, which means reducing the number of buses. The problem is trying to run a bus. The problem is not GMS, the problem is not high school, the problem is the middle school, because we're dropping kids off here at high school at 7:10, and in some instances, we've got 8 minutes to get that bus out of this parking lot and start the first pickup for GMS. So it's logistics, a lot of logistics, even though Litchfield, if you look at the map, a lot of cul-de-sacs, a lot of contiguous stops, it's not a problem getting that bus. We got one bus that's running 5 minutes because no other bus can pick it up, get those kids here to CHS, and then start the LMS route. So we're looking at not just number of stops and how many kids get on the stops, because it doesn't matter to us how many kids get on the stops. It's populating. You got to populate your map and see where these kids live and where we're obligated to have pickups. The problem is getting those buses. Anytime we get a call on a bus because it's late, I can almost tell you with certainty that it's going to be from LMS, and I can probably identify which of the 4 bus routes that we really have difficulty getting. Because if it gets tied up, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, getting out of here to go start in the morning. So it's a logistics thing. It's not just the number of buses, how many stops we got.
I think Chris raised a very interesting question, though. Why not 9? Give them, reduced by 1. So, yeah.
Right. I mean, we told them to. Conceptually, we said, could we cut 2?
I mean,
Conceptually.
there is some logic to that,
Right.
in that you have reduced the number of students that are there.
I mean, right now, if you look at the 9 bus runs of because it's really not 10 bus runs because some of them are sped buses. So it's 10 buses all told, but it's actually less than that. So a 2 bus cut is a bigger percentage than you think. Right now, we have the longest bus it looks like is 32 minutes, from 7:43, the first pickup, to an arrival at 8:15. We have a 32, 2:30s, a 29, and 28. So if you got, if you cut 1 bus out of 9 and did the math on that, then you're up to around 35 minutes for those buses, if you got perfect division. Now you're really talking about 2 or 3 buses that are going to be about 40 minutes if they're on time. That's starting to get long.
We've got 8 buses that service the high school, 10 each for LMS, GMS. But the 2 that we get, that come over, we bring 10 buses over in the morning. One of those buses is serving the voc ed kids. And then we've got 1 bus that automatically, which is the longer route for LMS, starts that route right away, bus 1 and bus 3. So again, it's moving these 10 buses around the district in such a way we're very tight as a district relative to our bell schedule with those 3 buses.
I'm now confused, Frank. You just said that of the 10 buses, we service the voc ed kids with that?
No, they bring another bus, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. It is misstated. We have another bus, we have probably 12 buses that come over in the morning, 10 of which...
And the voc ed is separate?
Yeah, the
So
voc
the
ed's
other
separate.
10 are strictly in-district?
Right. Yep.
Okay.
That's your regular ed route. We get 10 buses that come over for service.
When was First Student supposed to be done with their analyzation?
I can't put a time frame on them. I can ask them to do it. They would actually have a contract until April to recommend bus schedules to us and the number of buses.
So their drop dead date is April for them
I'm
to
sorry,
have?
August.
August, okay.
They're doing everything manually. If you come into my office, you'll see a Google map that they're working on. We can only work with them. They have said to us they're getting some new software at the request of the Nashua School District that they're going to be working with, and they haven't got that up and running yet. But she's working on, can we find a way to eliminate 2 buses? But again, it's not the buses, not the number of stops. It's where we need to go in a short period of time, and to get the kids into those schools to start based on the bell schedule.
So 2 buses was the goal, and you're saying most likely that's impossible and not going to happen, but that's what they're going to reach for.
In my limited
Yeah.
experience, just looking at it, when the bus needs to leave this parking lot and drive to where it needs to go, very difficult challenge.
because and I understand we had this conversation at the last meeting, and there was a goal set here, and we were asking for some things which might not be here in time, but, adding $100,000 back is tough, but maybe one additional bus might be a little bit more.
Could I amend the motion?
You certainly may.
I'd like to amend the motion to $49,863.
Second.
The motion is amended to $49,863. Again, that's 2721
And
transportation.
that's one bus.
And further discussion? Did you get it? Do we get a second, right?
Yes.
Oh, Dan, yes, I did hear
I just didn't
that.
get the one on the original, on Brian's motion. Who seconded that? Oh, it was Andrew. Thank you.
Further discussion?
What is the logic?
I think it's a reasonable compromise from what I'm hearing at the table here.
The thing I looked at, when we originally discussed this, and my comment was that I thought, I wasn't comfortable with 2, but I thought that 1 was reasonable. And the way I look at it is, next year we're projected to have 1,257 students. We haven't had that low a number in over 10 years, 15 years, and only because we don't have the high school in our history, because we've shipped them over to Alvern. And somewhere in that time...
And Manchester.
And Manchester. So somewhere 15 years ago, we added a bus. So it seems reasonable to say, granted, all the roads are the same, but how did we get all those kids over to Alvern? How did we get those kids to Manchester? How did we get those kids to the 2 schools that we had in town with less buses? So I do think it's reasonable to reduce a bus, and I wish I had the data as to what year we added the bus, and I look at the numbers and the years, and I honestly can't remember because it seems like yesterday, and I know it's not. So I think that, we need to look for ways to make reductions. I do agree that at least 1 bus needs to be reduced. In terms of worrying about the middle school start and end times have been changed a number of times over the years. Don't ask me why it's always that school. It shouldn't be a big problem. It's been done before. It's been done without huge amounts of negotiation. It's been done without huge amounts of needing to rally the parents. If you lay out a logical argument and reason why, people go with that. So I'm not so much worried about the lack of input with the changing of the middle school day. I think you'll be able to do it. I think you guys will be able to do it.
No, it's not the people, it's the union, so.
And again, we have, and this is going to sound awkward, but we have one of the best unions in all the times that I've been here, over 20 years. They have always worked well with us. Always worked well with us.
I'm not saying they won't, I'm just saying
And as I'm saying, they've worked well when we've had to change start times before, so I don't anticipate a problem.
But, also going back to, like, you said you don't have the data as far as when we added a bus, and I don't have that information either. I also don't know what maybe the start time was when you bused students to Manchester and the other towns. I mean, maybe that made all the difference in the world as far as that time frame. Again, we don't have that information. So we're just arbitrarily, we're cutting a bus, but we don't have a plan, and we don't know how that's going to affect anything.
I think it's workable.
You think?
I'm not comfortable cutting the buses out. I wasn't here for that meeting when the committee did this. So I am fully supportive of the 99,000 being added back in.
Do we have any opportunity to collect the data from the bus company in terms of whether it's feasible to cut a bus before deliberative session?
We can answer just 35 minutes. You can answer.
That was the intent when we made the 2 bus cuts.
Well, I guess that's what upsets me, is this was done a month ago. Have we made any progress?
What was done a month ago?
This reduction. So,
We
And-
can only ask, it's totally our control that they look at this, and we have made tenuous requests for a status from them. That's all I can do. I can't force a hand, I can't hold back funds, I can't hold back,
No,
there's
but show
no,
them
I don't have any
coffee.
leverage with the bus company except to continuously ask and hopefully they cooperate, which they have been for this point. They're busy as well.
And I understand that, but I just, the comment about, well, we can try for deliberative, well, that was what we said a month ago, so I sort of feel like we're going around in a circle here. Let's do it.
Not sure what the cost of the software would be, and then you'd have to do a database extraction, overlay the data, make sure it's accurate, run the buses, have to get information on the time between the stops. It's a several-month process to actually do it, even for a small district. If it's already set in, it's just a reset button, but set up the first time has a cost to it.
Student addresses, yeah.
And not to sound like an old person, but I remember when it was done by hand.
Yeah, I know. Seems like the average school bus ride, from everything I can see out here, is about 35 minutes. And all the statistics are available online.
I don't think we have enough information to effectively make cuts in this area. I know we've already have, and it's already reflected in the budget, especially since this has a direct impact to getting the students to their schools on time.
Well, again, my rationale is history. We did it before when we had 1,200, 1,300 kids, so I believe that it's not unreasonable.
Yeah, you're going off history, and, to the extent we always look at averages as a committee, I get it, right? To me, and this is just my opinion, this is more of a, let's take a shot and see if it sticks. It doesn't feel very factual to me to make that vote.
I agree 100%.
Can I put the superintendent on the spot? Do you have any opinion? 9 versus 10?
If you look at the length of the time of the 9 bus runs, I'm just looking at GMS because I'm more concerned about younger kids and getting them. You start to get up to a 40-minute delay on the bus ride, 10 buses. If you're looking at a 40-minute ride in the morning, that's starting to get close to the state minimum, which I could look up, it's 40 or 45 or something. I know we had an issue when I was in Nashua with a busing situation. It starts to impact learning. And the longer you have kids on the bus, the more you have issues that start to become behavior-oriented again, which spills over to the piece. Could a reduction of 1 work? As a mathematical average, you could say theoretically, yes. In functional reality, I would love to be able to sit with the software they have over in Nashua and plug the numbers in and say, yeah, you know what? We have 98% certainty. We don't.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, the amendment is to reduce,
I should have cut it in half, Cindy, is what I should have done.
right, I don't think you cut it exactly in half, but it's
49,863.
49,863.
49,863
The
is
new,
what the cost
to
of
make
buses.
the, right, to make the new number 49,863 for 2721 transportation. All those in favor of that amendment, please signify by,
Before
yes,
you
go
call the
ahead.
question, is the motion to add in 49?
Yes.
It's too.
His
His motion was to add 96.
So it's
Yeah,
to-
and
You amended
I'm
that.
reducing it to,
Right, so the
To-
first vote is to
So
reduce
what
the
do we,
99.
I just want to make sure
The-
before I vote, what I'm
Yes.
voting on, that's all.
The new number is going to be 49,863
As an add-in.
as an add back,
We're voting his amendment, though.
his amendment.
yeah, to see if we want to amend.
And
To reduce.
your amendment is
Just
to
to
reduce.
reduce.
To add.
No.
To reduce the addition
If he has the right number, then that should be the same number.
is
It's fine.
Well,
I just want to make sure.
49,860 is the right number. but that's all right.
I think it is, right, Frank?
The net, after you reduce it down, it would be 49,864, which
Yeah.
is the cost of 1 bus.
So if we vote in the affirmative, we're voting to
Just-
add in back.
No, to
No,
reduce
we're
the
voting to
99.
amend
To
the
amend it.
motion to add.
Gotcha.
Only add back in the cost of 1 bus.
Gotcha.
And
And
then
then
we'll
we'll
vote
vote
on
that.
Okay.
Everybody all set? Okay, all those in favor of 49,863 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Aye.
Okay, so the motion any abstain? Motion passes
6-3.
630.
Frank, you didn't vote, did you?
Thorne's voice.
Is this Frank 1 or Frank 2?
So, now, the main motion stands at adding $49,863 back into the budget for transportation. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adding $49,863, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? The motion passes 810.
Tried. Somebody.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, and you said you had more changes from the school board?
Next motion is to add $55,000 back into salaries and benefits for a fourth grade teacher, function 1100. The student count as of right now for...
All right, is there a second?
Sorry.
I'll second it for discussion.
So we can't vote on it then?
It's been seconded. Oh,
You're only second before discussion.
That's
Oh.
Levity again.
Sorry,
Little-
Frank.
little
Little
bit
slow
every
tonight,
meeting.
little slow tonight.
Which one comes first, F1
Yeah.
or F2?
All right, further discussion, go ahead, Brian.
Numbers right now are between 99 and 100. As of right now, projected is actually 104. With the student count as of right now, it would put a class size of 25, which is over the school board's policy.
What did you say the projected was?
104, sorry.
What, 104, the
Yeah,
count right
104.
now is 99, I believe.
99 or 100.
And we look at,
Is it 104 based upon the,
No, the projections are
October
96 for next year,
I mean,
for
that's what we...
fourth
base-
grade,
That's what we base things on.
fourth grade.
Right. And right now, third grade is at 99.
Yeah, we have ups and downs all through the year,
Yeah.
that's common. But the guideline, the criteria we use has been the October,
The,
November, for whatever that is, count.
the projections as of October 1st.
Yeah, and that's what we've always used and what both the school board and ourselves have used, so.
Yeah, and that projection is, I believe, 96, correct?
Yes.
Which still puts it above the class size of the school board policy.
Yeah, we can debate that too, but we won't.
Debate what you want, but
Well, the
that's
school
the
board policy
policy.
says if the town can afford it, that's what the policy says.
The policy says we'll strive for. It's not an exact cutoff.
And we've always used a percentage on that.
Any further discussion?
What was your amount?
55,000
One teacher.
in salary, correct?
We had cut two.
Right.
This is fourth grade.
I'm sorry, so for the ratios, right, I mean, there are other committee members that are a lot closer to this detail than I am. How close are we cutting it to the quote-unquote policy? I mean, how over are you? One student?
No.
One or two.
96.
One student.
15, four classrooms, 96 for grades four classrooms.
There, it would make,
And so three coming in, what I heard is 99, so it'll be three student difference.
Well,
no,
they
we
would
go by
too
projections,
far.
which is
So
96.
you'd go to,
Was that one student in each of the
One
classes?
student in
And
each
so
of the
policy's
classes.
95?
Over, which one?
because
Sorry.
96 kids, we have 96 kids projected, it falls in the band of four.
Because it's not an exact science. You can't have 3.5 kids in a class. You can't have
So if you
0.75%.
have one extra kid come in, then you just, or two extra kids, or four extra kids, you'd have one extra.
So, but it's still, you said strive, I mean, I've read that policy many times in the past, I remember we had many conversations about that. So it's still within the policy, but then part of that policy is we will strive, meaning in perfect conditions, this is a goal, but the number is still within the stated policy, right, Cindy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Any further discussion?
Just a comment.
Yep.
I understand the model, and I'm not a great fan of the 3-year weighted average it works in some cases. So for example, if you look at grade 8 registration to 9, there's typical out-migration. Number one, some kids go to private schools. Number two, a lot of parents wait until that break in school to do some moving, so you know there's some transition. In a lot of grade levels, it's more random. 3 to 4, 2 to 3, those are grade levels where parents move because they have to or because they really want to. So the fact that last year we had 3 who happened to move out of district took the 98 that we had at enrolled and projected 96. The reality is it's not a great model in that there is that randomness there. It's not a consistent pattern. It's an average that allows us to say, well, most of the time, you know, this will work out in our favor. It's, you know, I can't see, given the challenge that we have in the classrooms today, running grade 4 classes of 25 and doing it in a feasible way that isn't going to cost us more money over time with additional identified students and additional tutors and additional reading services and additional other services. If students fall behind at that grade level, it becomes very difficult. I mean, that was the rationale for the math position, and I understand the fiscal reality, but I think 3 and 4 you have to, you know, protect at that level. I mean, at the high school level, we only have, in the core academic subjects, 2 classes that are over 25, and those are 2 26s. But I asked grade 4s to go at, you know, 25s, to me is a little difficult.
I just get more opinions, so I understand this. I was in school with 30, so I mean, I know times are different now, and I understand that, but I gotta learn the reasons why.
You know, the reality is, we've used 3-year weighted averages forever. I was about to say forever, because that's, you know, over 20 years. Sometimes they're right on, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're slow if you have things happening immediately in your economic area. But you got to draw a line in the sand, and that's what we've used for 20 years, is the projections. And back 10 years ago when we were working on, do we need a new school, do we not need a new school, a lot of thought and time went into where's the division of number of students, how do you know how many classrooms you need, how do you know how many teachers you need. A lot of thought and time and agony went into trying to come up with where's the cutoff. So again, good or bad, draw a line in the sand, that's what we had to use. So I hate to be black and white. Could you get it? Influx of 5 students? Absolutely. And is it going to be a pain in August to try to figure out how to deal with that influx? Absolutely. But I don't have a crystal ball, and I always hated when you used to say that.
I used to have it.
I understand your point. I would have felt remiss if I hadn't made mine.
Yeah, the other point, Cindy, is we have paras in the classroom now, which we didn't have before.
A
when that
lot
policy-
more
when
than
that
even
policy
10
was
years ago.
developed. I mean,
Oh, that's right, there are,
there's a ton of it now.
And for good reason.
right.
Yeah.
But it just means that the ratio isn't really 1 to 25 or 1 to 26. So,
No, actually, when you have parents, 2 to whatever, right? But some
Exactly.
are maybe devoted to IEPs or
right,
504s.
but they're
or
there, but if some kid's acting up, I'm sure they can say, hey, cut it off, knock it off, you know, so.
But we're not looking for a monitor in the class, we're looking for
I'm
a
just
teacher and
saying,
students.
I understand that, but what I'm saying to you is that the
Well, what I'm saying
ratio
to you-
is not. Again, there's no need to get emotional and defensive. There are a serious tax increase. This is within the stated numbers. I'm sorry, I'm a black and white person.
I know
It's
you're a
an
black and white
adult.
person, but you know why I'm getting emotional? Because it's the education of our children of this town. That's why I'm getting emotional.
We're not gonna have any
That's-
kids in town if nobody can afford to live here.
And we're not going to have nobody in town if we don't have teachers.
All right. We're all getting emotional. Anybody who hasn't spoken, do you have any thoughts on one way or the other?
I hate to see jobs go, and, but it's such a fine line with the student count. I'm okay with 1. Personally, I'm
Yeah.
okay with 1.
I am
Wasn't okay
supportive.
with 2.
Sorry. I'm supportive of the 55,000 being added back in. I think we're crossing a very fine line between what is a clear, hard decision to make versus something that could really impact our district, right? If we were way under the ratio, like 5 students or more, I'd be totally supportive for the 55,000.
So how many kids do we say are in third grade this year? I'm sorry, I missed that.
99.
They just added one, so it's 99.
Right, but it's, we had 98 in October, so.
When we talk the ratio, there's two standards. There's the Litchfield School Board standard, which were under that, and then there's the state standard, which were way under that, right?
Oh,
Yes.
Way under the state standard.
Yeah, I don't like the state standard, but we are under that.
And I could agree that the state standard might be too high, and so, I mean, there's a lot of ways we can go. So we're way under the state standard and slightly under the Litchfield School Board standard.
Hey, if it's that final line, put it as a warrant article and see if the town is willing to support an extra teacher. I mean, it's within policy, let the people choose.
I could support the...
It's within the discretion of the budget committee. You don't have to put that to a warrant.
Well, no, I'm saying that if we say no, and the school really wants it, there's nothing stopping them from trying to get the people.
And just another comment that Mr. Valencourt made, I mean, you don't like to see jobs go, I get it, right?
Now, I'm hoping it happens by attrition,
Right.
that somebody
I mean,
voluntarily
I think a lot of the
goes.
committee members will say the same thing, but if we have to make difficult decisions, I know I'm more than willing to do it, right? I think this one's straddling such a fine line that I'm not comfortable with it, and that's the difference.
I would only add one other thing, and I don't care how the vote goes, by the way. Back 10 years ago, we did have an article, went to the town, and said, basically, should the budget committee use the new school board guideline, which is the ones we're talking about right now? And Cindy's pulling it out right now.
I think it's in this. This is the one about whether we put things in warrant articles. I actually think
Right.
it was the
That's
same
right.
year.
And the townspeople voted, no, the budget committee should not use the school board's ratios.
Okay.
The school board has established a new policy. This is, what year is this?
How big is that bag you have there, Cindy?
I know, right?
It's heavy, too. This is 2004. The school board has established a new policy on class size, because it was controversial. People did not want to lower the class sizes below 25. State guidelines for minimum class sizes for grades 1 and 2 is 25 students, and for grades 3 through 5 is 30 students. Previous budget recommendations have been based upon 20 students for grades 1 and 2, 25 for grades 3 through 5. The new policy reduces third grade classes from 25 to 20, and for grades 4 through 5 from 25 to 23. Should the budget committee use these lower class sizes in preparing their school budget recommendations? This is a non-binding petitioned warrant article. So the question was, should the budget committee use the lower class sizes? Yes, 923, no, 1,137. So the motion
Fail.
failed.
I could tell you, now, obviously, we're not about, we can't make policy here, but for people in town that say, yeah, I want smaller class sizes, there's equal and more people that say, no, I don't think smaller class sizes are better for the education of children. So we can't base it upon that, because we have to base it upon, like Cindy said, the averages and black and white and the numbers end of it and the budget. But you get equal, if not more people that says, no, I don't believe in the smaller class. I
What
think
that vote just
yeah,
told you.
my kid can get better educated with a larger class size, but then again, the first and second
I don't
grade.
think that, Chris, I don't think that's the vote saying. I think what the vote's saying is that there was a few people more who said they don't want to spend additional monies.
There was no money.
There's no money associated.
But it's a bigger class size, so
It's
bigger
about
class
policy,
size means
right.
more money, more teachers.
Model.
What's the average class size now in the fourth grade?
Project
22,
board.
23?
Works better with more
All
kids.
right.
And
What
what's
was your
great-
question, Dan?
The average class size right now in the fourth grade is probably about
21.
22, 23,
21.
21?
2021. And the biggest class is 22, and they're like 20 or 21, the other four.
I think this comes right
No,
back down to
20,
the bottom line, how
21's
much
not-
can we afford?
Right, it's about money.
All right, any further discussion? I think we've kind of beat this up a little bit. Hearing none.
Oh, just, what do we vote now? I'm
All
sorry.
right, so this is to add $55,000 back into the salary and benefits account, and the rationale is this puts back in the fourth grade teacher. So all those in favor of adding $55,000 to salaries and benefits, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? So the motion fails. 6-3-0. $360, excuse me. All right, so 55,000 is not added back in. Any further adjustments from the school
Well, I
board?
had several, but I'm not gonna deal with health and dental for that teacher at this point, so. I'll go on to, $22,800 to replace the math tutor, part-time that was taken out.
So is this salaries and benefits?
Yes, I'm sorry. $22,800.
I'll
That's
second.
straight salary, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to-
What was it?
Just straight salary.
It's a salary? Okay, so it's a salary. All right, so is there a
I'll
second?
second for voting.
Okay.
I mean, we can't discuss it, Frank?
All right. It's been made and seconded. Discussion?
Well, again, the math is our biggest challenge and has been. And the need for a math tutor. Actually, I'll let Superintendent Cochran speak on it. I mean, need for it.
The reason we took it out, though, was we hoped you would bring it in as a separate warrant article.
Yeah, we
I
want-
don't think we need to know why you want to do it.
It's a part-time position, Bill. I mean,
Makes no
part-time
di-
positions come and go.
A part-time or full-time, it is considered a new position from the viewpoint of the way this committee has been functioning through the years. And I think if you had it as a separate warrant article, you'd get 100% approval on this.
And
The reason it came out was because it didn't meet the criteria that this committee had for years for having new position in the budget.
And that, I think, it was simply, this committee supported it. They simply felt that based on history of how we bring in new positions, it's a warrant article.
And I could jump ahead and say if it was a warrant article, I would support it and recommend it and speak to it with any help I could offer at the deliberative.
It's back to, it's just a policy we've been operating with for, back to forever, right? If we're not consistent, and
Was that misunderstood as to why it came out?
No.
The committee just doesn't want to have it as a separate warrant article?
The school board?
No, we didn't
School board?
discuss it.
We supported a position last year, right? A new position, I forget what it was, right?
Yeah, we had
Computer.
the computer lab.
Right, and
Yeah.
we all recommended, we all sold it, and it passed. As a matter of fact, the supplies for it in the budget failed.
Yeah.
Funding
Right,
for the
right.
lab
Right, failed.
Yeah.
failed because
So-
those weren't included in the default budget, but the position.
Yeah. I mean, if that alone is not an example that this position would probably overwhelmingly pass if it was a warrant.
Would the school board consider bringing this back as a warrant?
I'll bring it back to the school board. I can't speak for the entire school board, but I can bring it back to them and inquire.
All right, any further discussion on the motion to add $22,800 back into salaries? Hearing none. All those in favor of adding $22,800 into salaries signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I'm sorry,
Aye.
I was in the opposed column.
All right, all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? All those abstained? Okay, motion fails, 270.
Distracting voting, sorry. My mind
You
went-
get into us, yeah,
My
you,
mind just went on a whole nother tangent.
all right. Anything else from the school district?
Yeah, just one other. Mr. Pascucci had asked about it, and I'd like to make a motion to put $7,800 back into the budget, and it would fall, what is it? It's an LMS, I'm sorry, technology, under LMS,
Is this for the computers?
correct, the desktops.
What is it?
This is $7,800 under computers for LMS, and I don't
It was the
know.
first
This was
part
for
of
the
3
teachers,
years.
right?
No.
No,
Was it the lease purchase?
Yes.
This is the
This
lease-
was the lease we pulled out.
lease of purchase.
Did we pull the whole thing out, or just cut it in half or something?
No, we
I
pulled
thought
the
we
Lease
did
out
something.
because it's a lease.
We pulled the
I'll
lease out.
second it, by the way.
All right, it's been seconded for discussion.
Voting? Which one?
I want to know what it was.
I seconded it for voting.
So this was
Further
the lease
discussion?
purchase of the computer?
Chris, you had asked like what the dollars were, and it's actually a 4-year lease. And that's what the $7,800 times 4 would be the $31,200. The purchase price would be $29,016. So
Can I ask, and how many-
This is $2,184. 30 desktops.
30 desktops, is that, so desktops for $1,000 each, right?
Oh, not by
Pretty
today's
much.
standard.
More like $600.
Four to $500.
Let me just, let me,
All
let me.
All right, one
let me
at a
speak-
time, one at a time.
Can I speak to this article, to this motion? Let me, my intent is, I never doubted that this is an item that they need. I can't support a lease in the budget, so I won't change my vote on that, but I would support a motion, whatever the right dollar amount is, in the budget to purchase the computers. Now, if you ask me anything about computers and the cost, I have no clue. So I don't know what the right number is, but I'm sure there's people here that do know.
Well-
But
Don't, because you don't know what they have, what their plan was.
You would need to see the specifications
Yeah.
that are being requested for the computers.
So-
Well, I
Not
think
all
we were just
computers.
told that information. We were told if these were purchased outright, that would be $29,016. So they obviously do have that information.
Okay, so the computers you need are 29,000, or about $1,000 apiece.
Yeah, I think it's 9 something.
Okay, so let me amend that motion to $29,016 to purchase 30 computers.
Second.
It's been made and seconded. Further discussion?
I think there's a better price to be had. I agree with purchasing the computers, but we should get a solid number, and I know he's
Well, that is a
looking it
solid
up
number.
now.
Unfortunately, our technology expert's not here right now to explain to you exactly what it is he's looking to purchase.
These are, if I may, these are, he goes out, he deals with different vendors, depending on which type of computer he's looking for, laptop, desktop, and he'll just get price quotes that aren't necessarily going to involve into a purchase. Again, without knowing the specifications of those computers, what's the memory, what's the processing speed, what kind of screen is he looking at, I don't know. So to that extent, we can't answer that, we can just tell you that he's looking at, I think the numbers come out around $960 per unit.
Now, I know now teachers do everything, it's online, kids can get their grades, test results like that same afternoon, really, if the teacher inputs everything, so.
Yeah, again, to answer your question, yeah, you can get a desktop, probably at Best Buy for $350.
Yeah, and now,
That's not what I'm sure he's pricing out on the specifications that he's looking for, the type of computers that he's looking to purchase.
yeah, all set with the computers, the pricing, yes, I understand, and then just the use of the computers, I guess
Ray, did you have a comment?
I do, actually. I have concerns that we're doing this ad hoc without a really solid technology plan. And the reason I say that is desktops today, as Mr. Cochran, I'm sure would agree, are a going-away technology. I mean, right now, the total desktop computers we have left at Stanley Elevator, 0. They're all back to 0 clients. $425, 24-inch monitor. They run off our server in the back room. It's gone by. It's, all these companies, Dell, HP, all of them are struggling to get anything like left out of the last of the desktop business. So I think Litchfield being a leader in technology for our schools, I mean, I talked with folks over at Londonderry, they don't have laptops for the teachers. The teachers use a machine that's in the classroom to log on. A lot of their stuff is going to virtual desktop. We have a new technology director, so we're adding money back in, we're dropping money back in the budget without a plan, like many things that we do here. We don't have a solid direction.
Even still, do you want to buy all of them in 1 year instead of phasing them out over 4 years?
Yes, actually, that kind of stuff I support. And
Really?
I'll tell you, yeah, because total cost of ownership goes down because it's the same thing. I can train somebody to support this piece of equipment. I can keep these spare parts in stock, power supplies, memory, whatever, and extend the life of those. So total cost of ownership goes down by buying more of the same things.
Perhaps, but I mean, every couple
I
of
can-
years, you're hitting the taxpayers with.
Doing what I do for a living, I can tell you that's a fact.
These are replacing computers at a minimum 7 years already online. So they're at the 7 years plus. You've got your money's worth out of the the 30 that are being replaced.
And I don't have to go to Best Buy, I can go to Dell.
Online.
Right now, published online price for an Opti right now is $600.
You're not
So-
talking to a tech person. I take the recommendation from the IT person, that's what we plug into the budget.
And whatever the new person wants to do,
Yeah, he can
there's
give
a,
the money.
there's a plan.
Yeah.
Because obviously, there has been a plan, and that's where the 30 desktops and the 4-year lease, that's where that comes from. So there is a
An IT
plan.
plan.
Yeah, there is a
an
plan.
IT plan.
And these obviously fit into that plan, because I think the IT person we had was really good, and there's no way he would have done something that,
The district is required to file with, you probably know this, with the Department of Education, a 5-year IT plan that is approved by the school board. So there is a plan, IT plan, and this fits into that particular plan.
and I think the issue this committee had was with the lease purchase,
Yeah,
not with the computers.
I think that lease purchasing makes a lot of sense, and that's the way you've been doing it. And as Cindy just said, the reason that I voted to take it out is because I have a problem with a lease purchase not being actually approved by the voters, which doesn't happen if it's just in the operating budget. We had a problem with the town resolved, it basically got resolved. If this were to be as a separate warrant article, which I honestly think it should be on a lease purchase, I suspect we'd support it.
The motion that's on the board right now is,
I'm sorry?
the motion that's out there right now is for a purchase. That's what we're discussing.
The
Which is
amendment,
why I'm
I'm
gonna
sorry, the
vote-
amendment.
Which is why I'm going to vote against the amendment. And I'm speaking against it. I think lease purchase is the right way to go.
any further discussion?
I think the lease purchase is the right way to go. It belongs in a warrant article, that's all I'm saying.
Right on.
All right, the motion to amend is to make the number, adding $29,016 to the line for technology at LMS, and it is 2225 is the
Correct.
number, the line number. All those in favor of adding 2916 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Aye.
Any abstain? So the motion passes 630. So the new number that is being proposed to add back is $29,016. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adding $29,016 to 2225, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Aye.
Any abstain? So the motion passes 630. All right. Is there anything else
That was it.
from the school district?
Thank you.
All right. Oops. And 27, 21. All right, anything from the members?
I worked through the MS myself.
The 1100 series regular program?
Question before you start. You sent out 2 documents, MS-27 totals for Thursday's meeting and MS-27 detail. Which document are we working on?
I'm working on the first one. MS
Totals
20.
for Thursday?
Yes.
That's fine. Do you need, do you need what you?
So under regular programs, are there any changes by the committee?
I just, go ahead.
So, one big bottom line cut or per line item?
I'm looking for a bottom line number. So reduction, increase, whatever. The recommendation right now for regular programs stands at $7,932,897.
All right, I'd make a motion to reduce that number by 55,000.
Okay, there,
55,000.
there is a motion to reduce 1100 series regular programs by $55,000. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Been seconded?
I mean, I went through the numbers. Again, I'm seriously concerned about the bottom line number and how this is going to affect a lot of our taxpayers. And so cuts have to, I feel, in my opinion, cuts need to be made. And so it's a matter of how cuts can be made that minimize the impact of the students. So I'm looking through the budget and I see long-term subs. We have $118,000 budgeted throughout the schools. We have a $55,000 number there that's a placeholder in case something happens. Personally, I feel it's the wrong way to do it, but that's not my purview. So if 55,000 is good, why not take 20 grand from it? It's still within what you spend. Science education, we have 5.5 teachers. All other core subjects, including math, English, have 5 teachers, so it would reduce one of the half-time teachers. GMS supplies, it would adjust it to reflect the projected number of students, because the current number does not tie in. It would eliminate the additional music, my number is based on eliminating the additional music to enhance the program. Again, I think that would be a great warrant article. I don't think it's something, it's a want and not a need. I tried focusing on needs in the budget as opposed to wants. The furniture, for the music room, I felt that in eliminating 2 classrooms, we don't know what could be used in that classroom, and so it's really a shot in the dark as to adding musical equipment. Reading supplies, it would reduce a couple line items for additional 10 students. The base number already has additional 10 students, so now you're doing an additional 20. Theater arts added a couple of new items, so they haven't been needed in the past, so therefore, in my opinion, they're wants and not needs. So, in my opinion, I looked through the numbers and felt that there were at least $55,000 in recommended cuts associated with wants and not needs.
Any further discussion?
As we were going through page by page a few weeks ago,
I mean, we discussed some of these, but we didn't know the bottom line impact, so.
you've answered my question.
Knowing now what the potential tax impact and what people are gonna be seeing, in my opinion, it's too much of a hit. Taxes have been going up a lot every year, and with no end in sight. We have enrollments declining, and so it's going to continue to go up a lot, because we're going to get less help from the state. So unless we're willing to make these tough decisions, people either have to suck it up and assume $600 to $700 a year, or do we make those decisions people elected us to make?
Any further discussion?
I don't disagree with you. I just wish I had the full facts and ample time to reconcile it.
I can't hear you.
All I'm saying is I agree with what Carrie had mentioned, right, in her rationale. I just wish I had ample time to actually do the fact-checking myself. And now I'm in a position to vote when I don't have the facts, and I'm not comfortable with that.
That's fine.
These are line items that we discussed, we went line for line, now all of a sudden you're
Yes.
pulling out
No,
20 lines.
because I said in the past that I reserved the right.
All right, so
No,
we
no.
did,
No one's not
Didn't
saying
say
you
we
don't
were gonna-
deserve, no one's
We-
not saying that, Carrie.
hold
thing
on,
is, we
guys,
went
hold on,
like
guys.
that.
We went line by line. We discussed many of these, and we ended up with what we have now. So these are further recommendations. Carrie feels that some of the things we discussed, now in hindsight, are places she would like to take further reductions. So y'all have to decide based on, and she ran through a list of her rationale. You may not agree with any of that, you may agree with some of it, but you have to, in your mind, decide, is 55,000 a reasonable reduction based on all of the information you have reviewed over the last...
Because we've seen the same thing. Okay.
I
Superintendent?
wanted to address the science situation. I'm looking at this year's science schedule. Next year's class size will be essentially the same. I'm looking at 5 sections of freshman science. The maximum legally allowable in the state is 24 because of lab safety. The class sizes are 24, 24, 23, 24, 24. I see a remedial math classes at a 9 and a 7 that can't be combined. The other class sizes are 21, 15, 21, 21, 15, 23. There is nowhere that we can cut a class and still meet the state requirements in any of the areas.
All right.
And so that with the science, it just doesn't work. Part of it is a certification. You got to have
That's
physics and so on. So in terms of the science piece, we literally wouldn't be able to offer
Okay.
the courses that we need.
That's a reasonable, like I said, I looked at it, all the other core classes had 5 teachers, and therefore, in my opinion, science is
Science is
just
the
as valuable
outlier,
as English.
yeah. Science is kind of the outlier in that, partly because of that state requirement.
Okay.
So if you think in the other places, all of those core social studies classes, science classes, that's where we have a lot of 24s, 25s, and the 226s. And in science, by regulation, you can't have it. And because of the amount of certifications required of physics and chemistry, physical science, and earth science, and that, it means that you can't get the same level of utilization, which explains the differential.
Right.
You wouldn't know that because
I wouldn't know.
most people who work in the schools don't know that.
All right, so under regular programs, the 1100 series, did anybody else have any thoughts on that? So we have a number that's been thrown out, maybe that's the right number, maybe that's the wrong number, maybe there's a different number. Did anybody else have any thoughts on the 1100 series?
Don't we have a motion?
We do. And that's why I'm asking. This is your opportunity to either change it or adjust it or,
Can I just want to address the substitute issue in long-term and short-term, because I think the comment was made that the $55,000 that the district-wide appropriation was a place marker. I think we can explain that the substitute and the long-term substitute, those appropriations are budgeted at the district-wide level, and then as they're expensed, they get expensed down to the appropriate location. By example, we have in the budget $130,000 this year. We're recommending, in 2013-14, we spent $131,000 district-wide. So again, you can't look at the district-wide and say, what did we spend, because it all gets spent somewhere else. Our long-term sub, $55,000, we spent $78,000 in 2013. I don't remember the 14 number here for some reason. I think it was around $76,000. So those two lines, they're not placeholders. Those are fully expended out. And again, with the long-term sub, we don't know, because that's dependent upon people go on family medical.
That's fine. Again, I'm looking for a reduction of less than 1% on this $8 million line item. Regardless of where he comes from, I still think that's a reasonable number, less than 1%.
all right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of a reduction to the 1100 series regular programs of $55,000, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Aye. Any abstain? Motion fails 270. 1100 series regular programs, any other motions? 1200 series special programs, any motions?
I'll make a motion to reduce $79,000 on this line item.
Okay, there is a motion to reduce the 1200 series by $79,000.
$79,000.
Is there a second?
7900.
Second.
All right, looking through, when we discussed it, there was a comment that there could be an additional GMS special ed person. We discussed that the standard could be 1 per grade, so it's kindergarten, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have an extra. So based on declining enrollment, it seems that it would be reasonable to consider a reduction in that location. I am, again, going back to needs versus wants. I understand the argument for having the conferences, workshops to bring the certification up for our teachers. I'm willing to concede that 2 would be a need. Dr. Cochran made a rational argument that I can buy into, that 1 person certified within the district is not enough. I would propose moving that to 2 additional, so you'd have 1 per school. I think having 2 per school would be more of a want at this point, given the state of the budget. 6 is a want, 3 is a need. So as I tell my kids, I'm willing to fund needs. Wants. So then there's additional equipment replacement. I feel in a number of line items, there's laptops. I feel that $1,000 for a laptop is a bit more than I'd be willing to spend. So I took a reduction of $250 for each laptop I saw. And then additional furniture equipment in there. What did I say? There was a couple of filing cabinets that were listed for like, what did I see it for? There were a significant number for the filing cabinets, when you can get a filing cabinet from Office Depot for 1/10 of the price. So throughout it, there's just a number of things that I felt, again, we're funding wants instead of just needs. And I think that
What was your reduction?
79,000,
79,000?
yes. But the primary reduction would be the reduction of one of the special ed the overseeing people.
At the elementary school?
May I just ask one question? Are you taking into, when you went through your reviews, did you take into consideration the global budget cuts that we made on
Yes.
December 18th?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you.
I actually have two questions before we go any further. Number one, can you just tell me like what your total cuts are you're gonna be making this evening? Dollar-wise,
Sure.
that you're gonna attempt?
Well, I attempted, we're about $368,000.
Okay. So the next thing I'm gonna ask, if you're gonna start saying $79,000 to a category, I'd like to go through each item you wanna cut.
Do what?
I wanna go through each item.
You can't do that, because we're not doing that.
We're at
We're voting on
bottom
we're voting on a function number
Yeah.
now. We're not voting on individual object codes.
So.
She's identified some things as to why she thinks there's a rationale there, but the vote is on.
But it's a
on the
bottom
function
line.
code.
I
Superintendent?
literally can't speak to the rationale. We typically have one for grades 1, 2, 3, 4. We have kindergarten, but we're also required by law to offer special education services in our grade 3 and 4 program. And that class, we're required to test, read IEPs, and start delivering services as soon as they hit their 3rd birthday. So we had, and that program, I think, has 30-some students in it now, which would be 50%. By regulation, it can't be more than 50% identified students. Usually we meet the regulation. But so you're looking at probably another 12 to 15 students there are in the pre-K program. So that would be one per grade level, and one for pre-K would be the 6. I'm not positive that rationale, I wish Dr. Bandurski would hear, but that math works.
So when I look
We
at,
were looking at, go ahead.
I believe you're talking about GMS special education with salaries, and there are 6 teachers listed, is that what you're taking?
Yes, and we talked, there's the pre-K to K, and then we had discussed, one of the questions that I had asked was, at what point do we decide reductions? And there was a comment made from that end of the table that typically we would have about 1 person per grade. I kept 1 person per grade, so I went from 6 to 5. And we have a declining enrollment. It's either we're going to accept that. I mean, if we're perfectly okay going to the taxpayers as a community, as a committee, with a $600 tax rate increase, I'm gonna sit here and be quiet. I'll vote no against the budget. That's fine. But
I'm just confused, because based on 1 per grade, we need 6.
I'm sorry. Why? Kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th.
And the preschool program.
It's pre-K to KE. Pre-K to K has one.
But there's about 78 kindergarten students, there's about 30-something pre-K students, so that's not pre-KK. That may be their certification, but that's not
So the
how it divides
information in
up.
here is incorrect.
Well, that may be their certification.
Okay.
I've just, each age group has different needs and a different program, and that's, I think.
And that's fine, and I see pre-K to K, assuming that's pre-K to K, and then every other teacher listed there serves in demographic other than pre-K to K, which would then leave 5 for grades 1 through 4.
All right, so the motion is for $79,000 to 1200 series. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of a reduction of $79,000 to the 1200 series special programs signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Any abstain? Motion fails 270. Uh, 1300 series vocational programs.
I'm good with that.
1400 series other programs. 1400 is like, is co-curricular, library, athletics. 1500 series non-public programs.
That's a self-funded, I think.
Self-funded. So there, I think, does anybody want to have a discussion about that?
Revenues on one side, expenses here, so.
Washes itself.
It washes. I know there was a discussion as to whether.
It was up to them what they wanted to do.
Okay.
That was my discussion.
Adult ed programs, that's just a placeholder. I'm not sure where the $7 came.
$7,
I know,
yeah.
I'm not sure where it came from, but that's what we were given as a number. We did not adjust it, so I left
It's
it.
a dollar placeholder in 7 different places.
Okay, okay. Let's see.
Explanation I didn't come up with, sorry.
All right, moving down to the next item, which is the 2,000 to 2199 student support services.
That one I had a recommend, I would like to make a reduction of $1,750.
$1,750.
Second.
It's been made and seconded. Discussion?
Again, it was primarily laptops. I just can't imagine spending $1,000 on a laptop for a teacher. No offense to the teachers, but you're not running major software.
You do have kind of a point there, because the town administrator comes in here, and he's using a Google Chromebook. They're about $250 these days. You can buy an HP Stream for $200, that's with Windows 7 and 1 year of Office. 365 subscription, so I could see your reduction being logical. So you're taking $250 for each laptop,
I
right?
think $250 for each laptop, and then there was a furniture additional for the speech. And I'd have to say, let me see if I can find my notes on that one.
So from,
There was a locking,
Latitude.
it was a fire cabinet or something for records that for $1,500, when you can get a locking cabinet for significantly less.
So for student support services, I'm sorry, what was your motion?
I'm sorry?
What was your motion?
$1,750 reduction.
Out of,
$1.5 million.
$1 million.
Okay.
$1,500,000.
yeah.
All right, and just in terms of the file cabinets, they're very specialized. They do have to be fireproof and lockable. So it is
Considering I
not something you
feel
can go to
we're-
Staples and get.
That's fine, but considering the number of wants I feel are in this budget, I think you can still find the money for it.
Are they able to use the Chromebooks? I mean, you mentioned Chromebooks, but if they're using some type of software, you can't really load it.
HP Streams right now are $200, and that includes.
No, I understand the cost
Yeah,
of the computer.
and that's a
but
Windows-
I'm asking, is the computer functional for what they need it for?
I was just gonna say that I don't know, that's with Windows 7, and actually, it's with Windows 8, sorry, I'll take that back, you can downgrade it, but it's an equivalent computer. So what she's saying is $250 for each of the $1,000 computers, so that takes it down 25%. In today's market, that's realistic. I think that's realistic, to be able to get something that's serviceable for what they need to run that will last, whatever they need. I don't know, all I'm trying to do is support Carrie's rationale, it's logical.
No, I'm just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and within the context of everything within this student support systems, my guess is that the $1,000 will be
Again,
lost anyways.
sorry, I wish the director were here, but he's not. Typically, the conversations that he and I have had about this relate to whether or not you're buying something that is enough machine, that it's imageable and controllable outside. And that usually pushes the price point up. So you don't have to, I mean, if the machine goes down and needs to be reset, you can,
And I think all she's saying that within the $1.5 million, there's probably some things that go in and out, and
Yeah. All I'm saying
$1,000
is
you'd never see
That's
it.
been the kind of conversation that we've had, because I have asked that question in the past.
But it's between here and, between here and there, that's a big range. I'm saying in the bottom end, you got that, and it's a serviceable machine. What's in between, I don't know. And I'm not telling you you should buy anything in between.
Any further discussion? All right, on the 2199 student support services, a reduction of $1,750. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Or abstained? So the motion
I
passes
can
7-0.
editorialize. Mr. Peebles, those are the sorts of questions I will be having very shortly. I spent about an hour with our incoming person who starts tomorrow, so.
Yeah, I understand that. I know that you're in flux. Carrie's argument is a valid one, with the cost of technology spiraling down. I mean, geez, you can get iPhone 6, for free, somebody will give it to you if you buy the service. that, those kind of things are becoming commodity. They're not even commodities anymore.
Could I ask the superintendent a question before we go next line item?
Okay.
Your new tech person,
Sorry.
your new tech person, you've hired him, salary versus the other?
We were able to get in within the existing scale. We thought, we actually suspended the scale. We were able to.
Is it more or less than Kyle was gonna, that was my question.
Less.
Less, okay. And I think that was all the rationale that we made some other reductions on, so that's fine.
All right. We already made a change to 2299. Are there any further changes to instructional staff? Instructional staff services, excuse me.
Any takers?
Was that
Go ahead.
instructional staff?
Instructional staff services, that was where we made the.
I thought that was to the student support services.
Yeah, I thought so as well.
Well, we're moving on. We passed
Oh,
that one.
are there additional motions to student support services, 2021-99?
No, the
Where was
17,
Jerry's cut
the
made?
1750
$17.50.
was made
And so
to
what function was that made to?
the 2199, the 2021.
$2021-99.
That's what I thought, okay.
Student services.
So we haven't done anything on the instructional staff?
Correct.
Nope. Well, I'm moving on to instructional staff, and I believe that is where we added the $29,016 for the computers.
Okay.
I have that as 2225. Any further changes to instructional staff services?
Yes, I was gonna make a motion to reduce it by 43,600.
Are you making the motion?
I am making a motion to reduce it by 43,600.
43,600, is there a second?
Second for discussion and voting?
All right.
In here, we have a couple of items that are the libraries. It seems to be a formulaic decision as to how many texts they're gonna replace. And so I just halved that. It's a formula. It's number of kids times a certain amount. So to me, again, in the tight, apparently not so tight in some people's budgets, I felt that it was a cut there could be taken without impacting the education of the students. I actually went after some of the instructional and computer equipment because I felt that that was a want and not a need. I'd have to look up the exact line item, just 2 line items.
So the majority of your justification is
Was,
library services?
Computer instruction equipment additional, which was added 17.6. I didn't have to look it up. It was what the exact line item is. It removed, and then 18,000 from the high school. It was the same item, I think, in each one. So it was LMS, GMS, LMS. So we have 2,200. Page 1, 2, and 3. Be technical. But I have a feeling it's a moot point based on the previous one anyway. The 17.6 was the interactive classroom, smart boards, speakers and projectors. And it was from each of the 3 schools. Again, I felt that we've operated so far without them. And I looked at it strictly as want versus need. And I've tried to be very consistent. We can argue who feels what's a want and who feels what's a need.
Well, that's just it,
And
unfortunately.
my definition, it fit my personal definition of a want. And that is why I identified it as such. You're free to disagree with me and go ahead.
Okay,
But
but
I'm entitled to my opinion.
you are entitled to your opinion, but can I just say that don't speak for the teacher and don't speak for the specialist as far as a want? That's what their needs were. They laid it out, so it's your definition, like you said, okay? But what it is that specialist came in, either be the IT person or the librarian, whoever came in and said, here's what their needs are in order to educate. That's what their needs are. You keep saying a want.
So
That's
how
your
did we
definition, your
Wait a
educate?
minute, let him finish.
You keep defining it as a want.
Have we
Okay.
operated without it? Until this
You
point.
continue operating without, and again, that person's not here now. We're going through all these
I'm asking you a
budget
question.
items.
Up until this point, we don't even have it yet. Are our kids being educated currently?
Yeah, can they be educated better with it? Yes, that's why the need is there.
In some cases, those are equipment we do have.
Well, you
This
know,
was
the
under
edu-
additional. these are
Okay, we
additional.
educated, Carrie, we educated our children years ago without computers in the classroom. We now have computers in the classroom. Is it a want? No, it's a need these days. It's needed.
That's debatable amongst
All right, is there
Well-
further discussion?
Some people still using that.
Yeah,
That's-
just a quickie. Again, just look at the function code. Okay. Last year, we spent $609,000. This year's budget is $690, and the request is $790. It's up $100,000 over the last couple of years.
And again, without
And I
looking,
think that's the rationale that she's
It's a
proposing.
matter of, our kids are clearly being well-educated, we're scoring very high, we're top-ranked in some areas.
we'd
So
like to
to,
stay that way. But Bill,
So to me,
the
it was
tough
like-
part is,
Carrie,
like,
hold on.
I know, we're looking at a code, but without looking at line for line.
Yeah,
where
which
the
we
cuts-
did. Yeah.
I understand, it's
Yeah.
difficult.
And I understand what you're saying, too.
You know, there's obviously a few ways to look at it. I mean, I remember sitting in school board meetings years ago as a community member, and I had clear examples, in my mind at least, and I was very vocal about some wants versus needs. And, you know, in my opinion, there were a lot more wants years ago, and we whittled a lot of them down to where, to the level is, I don't know. I'm not an educator, I can't, some of this stuff, I don't know what a want is and a need is. But if you looked at the budget 8 years ago, even somebody that knew very little about education could pick out some wants. Then there's the budget issue, right? It's, people's taxes are going up a lot of money, and they're gonna have to know that before they vote. So obviously, that's something to be concerned about. And then, of course, Bill's examples are how much was spent year over year. So I don't know what the right number is, to be honest. I need help, if somebody can help me.
Any further comments?
Yeah, Cindy,
What?
can you give me your opinion?
I can tell you, when we went through this line by line, what we ended up supporting is what I feel was reasonable. We had a year, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, where the district took a $2 million hit and they made some drastic cuts. Then we ended up getting that money back and couldn't repair, it was too late to then reapply it to the places that were cut. So I do think that there is some catch-up being played, and especially when where you reduce it is your buildings and your technology. So I think we hashed it out, and where we came to, I'm comfortable with. An additional cut, smart boards, additional equipment, it's there for a reason. I don't recall that there being a place that I felt, that's out of line, so.
These smart boards were a replacement of damaged ones, right, not additional?
No, they're additional.
Well, you see, just to comment on that, because we went through that whole discussion when we did the curriculum, and we took a reduction and accepted that there should be some money in there for some major replacements. And so the global reduction we took impacted the schools, all three schools, plus what you want to do on an overall.
I can speak to the smart.
And I think that, by the way, I think that's where a big piece of this increase is.
If I can speak to the smart boards, one of the biggest issues that we had going into the school year was that we had, given the PD that we've given around it, given the way that it increases access to students, I've seen some fabulous lessons using smart boards. We have some really high-end users, people who put a lot of time into using it and structure the lessons around it. We had more requests for GMS for this year than we could keep. We moved one that was being not utilized. We have had the PTO fund, I think, probably one a year for the last couple of years, and we're still about 3 short this year, from 3 or 4 short from the requests that we actually had. So there is a waiting list of people who have been getting the training, who are, wanting to be able to use it. And we do have some really good models of the building of people who are using it really well. I saw Paula Cullen Kent's class about 3 weeks ago, and based on a student question in the middle of a whole class conversation, spun on a dime, hit her button, pulled up a completely different document, spun this way, addressed the student's misconception in a little conversation right here, and then seamlessly went back to the lesson, engaged the whole class the whole time. That's something we never could have done before. That's when we talk about where we want our instruction to be, we have some people working really hard to try to be able to use that to that extent in the classroom.
I don't think, perhaps there's a misunderstanding. I'm not saying that it's not a valuable technology. I'm saying, can people afford it? Because if we're gonna go with we wanna do the best for the education of our kids, let's just start right now, give everybody their iPads and laptops. Where are we gonna draw the line?
That's what we'd like.
All right,
If you
so,
approve it,
I
we'll
mean,
do it.
the basic bottom line is, this is our point where we look, now we've gone through every line, we're looking at it globally, and
Yeah.
the question is, can people afford it? And so that needs to be our rationale right now. Is this a reasonable cut for this globally, for this area, and as we go through to the bottom line?
And just to follow up on I appreciate the thoughtfulness that Carrie's taken into constructing a rationale. Whether Brian agrees with it or not, in wants versus needs, I mean, there's a couple of compelling documents out there. One of them about a school that's, these are both private schools, by the way. One is extremely low-tech, one is extremely high-tech. They're both turning out students of equal caliber. So technology does not make or break education. The teacher that's in the classroom makes or breaks education. And would you agree with that, Mr. Cochran? I'm not trying to
Yes and no.
do your job.
Are you a good to great reader? Are you familiar with the book?
These days, I am, after today, when we lost a couple of people at our company because of the current state of the overall economy, I'm a survivalist.
I would agree with the premise of good to great in respect to the use of technology. Technology by itself does not create an innovation. It's an accelerator, it's a multiplier. If you give a teacher who's not a great teacher technology, you have a not great teacher with technology. When you have strong teachers, then that technology can be used as an enhancer, as a multiplier. So by and of itself, technology or dollars may not make a difference. What
I'm just saying there's
seeing
arguments
is
for
the
both.
technology well used. But, no, I was not trying to go the other way.
Yeah, no, but I'm a technology guy, so I believe in the philosophy and you got a lot to manage with the change, and especially the teachers not knowing how to use the technology. As you came from Nashua, they're hiring people to go out and just sit with the teachers and teach them how to use the simple tools they have. So,
Fortunately, it doesn't sound like we're in that position. We have trained our teachers, and we have a backlog of teachers waiting for the technology that they can put it into use, so.
Madam Chairman, if I may, my opinion wasn't specifically asked, and I'm insulted by that. That's okay.
Insulted by what?
My opinion wasn't specifically asked, but that's okay.
I didn't get to you, I'm sorry, Mr. Carter, what's your
Ready,
opinion?
right?
I lost you for a second.
No, so when we started the school process, late November, early December? It was a long time ago at this point, right? I looked at the
I had brown hair then.
Yeah, I had more hair than, but I looked at the superintendent, and, we had a bit of a debate and a little bit of a heated discussion there for a moment where I'd said and commented that I'll cut $1 million from your budget, right? Where do we end up throughout this whole process? Right around $900,000, right? I'm comfortable with the work and the thoughtfulness that we put in going through page by page of this budget. For me, and this is only my opinion, I appreciate all the analysis that you've done. I will not support any additional cuts because I feel that the numbers that we derived throughout the whole process are reasonable.
How much have we added back in?
Yeah, we added a little bit back in.
We added,
Take the million.
we
So hold your tongue.
added $78,879.
So what's the difference to $1 million? I'll make that motion and call it a day.
All right, there's a motion on the table. All those in favor of reducing $43,600 to $2,222.99 instructional staff services, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye. All those abstain. So the motion fails 270.
Not gonna get it. Here we go.
All right, moving down, 2310, 2319, other school board. Any motions on that line?
Oh,
All right, 2320, which is the 310 line, which I couldn't match up that, but SAU Management Services, any motions on that line? 2320 to 2399, all other administration. Any motions to that line? 2400, 2499, school administrative services. Any motions to that line?
Make a motion to reduce it by $100,000.
There's a motion to reduce it by $100,000. Is there a second?
Second for discussion.
All right, it's been made and seconded. Further discussion?
This would be it's assistant principal. I mean, we discussed this earlier, and realistically, based on the numbers, we could cut 3. Dr. Cochran made an argument that cutting the GMS assistant principal would be a terrible cut, so I took 1 of the 3. Considering we said that assistant principals usually come into play at over 500 students. Each of our schools is significantly under 500, so really we could be realistic to cut all 3. So I took 1.
Actually, I think it's different at the high school. I think it's 300 or 400 or something because of... I thought the state standard was different at the high school, but that's fine. Any further discussion?
This is one I could go both ways. You're right about the state standard being 500, but having volunteered down at GMS, that's a tough one. I mean, the assistant principal is usually charged with, I don't want to call it disciplinary action, but, taking care of the children that make their way to the office, and as well as writing teacher reviews, and at least that's what they were doing when I was down there, where the principal is usually in charge of going out to the administrative meetings. It always leaves one person with that authority, with basically the master authority in the building, and even if somebody's missing. So, do I think the budget's too high? Yeah, but I'm not sure I can support losing the person.
I think, I've had this thought on my mind for years about the assistant principal, and that's why I asked the question of Dr. Cochran. And, the thought of even sharing an assistant principal, I know other schools do that, but I was satisfied with Dr. Cochran's answer that this is a thought moving forward, and I think we can get there.
And as I look at
Maybe not now, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, as I look at the numbers, we're 11 under then at the high school. We're 55 under at the middle school. I'm not sure.
Oh, the cut will be made at some point, whether we take
significant.
it this year or another year, but the motion will not go away.
There's no doubt, ultimately, I think we're going to get there.
The discussion is definitely going to continue over
Yeah.
the years.
The expectations that we have placed on our building administrators, and in some cases I've placed on the administrators, but I think more generally, we have really good administrators who have high expectations for themselves and who work really hard. You've heard me speak before about the need to educate every kid to high levels. We really are fortunate to have building administration who are teacher leaders. They understand curriculum. They read. They retain their certification in their original certification area. For Mr. Litchfield's case, both elementary and secondary English. So he's grounded in the classroom. Understands curriculum theory, assessment theory, comes back, takes that, applies it in the classroom, and we're really asking people not just to supervise and evaluate, because that is done, but now actually change teaching practice. And we're doing a pretty darn good job. I'll be reporting out in 2 weeks on the 3-year strategic plan from 2012 to 15. And I look at the data that's there, and for the last, I would say, 4 years, we've made good, solid, steady strides. We're a school district with about 9 or 10% free and reduced lunch. 5 or 6 years ago, our high school was below the state average. Not anymore, not by a margin, across all subject areas. The growth and in spite of that cut, I know there's hiccups, and you and I probably agree on the areas that we wish, been impacted most by those cuts. but we made great strides. And those things, I mean, teachers are the core of what we do. The teachers can't do it by themselves. They need leadership, they need it at the district level, they need it at the school level.
Yep.
I don't think we would be close to where we are today if we didn't have that caliber and capacity, caliber of leadership and capacity of leadership. I think it's that important. And I said earlier, the role of schools is to get better at getting better, and we really do work hard at it. And if we don't have that capacity, then it doesn't take long for the upward piece to become flat, to become down. And so this is something that we've worked very hard at. I think we've hired good people. I think they're doing the right work, and they're doing it well, and it's an absolutely crucial function.
Any further discussion? All right, the motion is to reduce $100,000 from $2,400, $2,499 school administrative services. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those
Oh,
opposed?
I'm sorry. I take that vote back.
All those opposed?
Aye.
All those abstained? All right,
Sorry,
so it's
Terry.
180. All right, 2,500, 2,599, business, any reductions or additions to that?
Reduction of $875.
$875.
Second.
It's been made and second.
I tied it to the partitions that were being added to the office. Again, and my criteria of a want. We've operated without it. It's not necessary for the education, in my opinion, of the children. It was a reasonable place to take a cut.
Any further discussion?
I could support that just on the amount.
Increase it.
Call the question.
All right, line 2,500, 2,599, business, a reduction of $875. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
All those abstain. Motion passes eight.
Pass it on. Oh, in a second.
Okay.
Oh, you're, okay, so 7-0, motion passes. Plant operations and maintenance, 2,600, 2,699, any motions there?
Yeah. Let me explain okay, I'll make the motion. I'd like to reduce that by $23,000.
Second.
A motion to reduce by $23,000 has been made and seconded.
Okay. I'll tell you, I'm comfortable with the bottom line number that we came up with originally. We've added in, how much have we added in?
About 80.
We added in 78,879. I have not made any changes for the reductions.
And I'm gonna try and get that out of the budget, another line item. And 23,000 would be one piece of it. The other piece I'm gonna go after sped transportation. And then if somebody wants to work on another one, then that'll get the number out of there. I'm not identifying anything, it's just a global cut in the account.
All right, any further discussion?
So, I just want to make sure I understand. What you're saying is you're cutting the 23,000, but
I'm
you don't have
reducing,
anything to base it on?
I'm reducing this particular function, which is $2,185,045 by $23,000.
Right, but I'm trying to understand what the number's coming from. So the $23,000, where did you come up with the number?
I can clarify that for you.
It's just a broad,
Bottom line.
What Mr. Spencer's trying to do is he's
It-
just gonna make reductions of $80,000 to be added
it's a
in
bottom,
tonight.
it's a bottom line
Get it to
cut.
the bottom line.
So
He
this
doesn't care where it comes
function
from.
account, if you look at this function account, it's made up of many, many items, all of which are variable, and
All of which we've already gone line by line. And Bill, all you're
I-
telling
no,
you,
I
you're
understand
just gonna
that.
cut $80,000 because we added $80,000
I
in.
understand that.
So it doesn't matter where it comes from, right?
I just told you what I'm doing. And
Well,
why-
this is in his purview to do, so.
I know, I just wanna get clarification, that's what he's doing.
Look, you know, I mean, I spoke for so many of these maintenance items, of course. I mean, because I know they're necessary, and that's always the first thing to get cut when the people say no. I'll support that cut. That's reasonable to me, at the bottom line, because there was some stuff in there too that, would be nice to get done, but we set priorities and there's a lot of money in there. So I could support that one, even though I'm the big maintenance guy.
Any further discussion?
At this point, I'll take what I can get.
I understand the rationale to get back down to where we were. I don't necessarily believe in that rationale, and especially not under plant operation and maintenance.
Yeah. For me, it
I mean,
gets back.
this includes many things, including,
Includes the sheds, it includes,
Yeah, yeah.
it's stuff all over the place. There's a lot of stuff in that matrix.
There's also,
I think-
formula, it's just, some of it's formulaic repairs, general repairs based on square footage, so.
I'm back to the discussion we had about an hour ago at this point, where, at least from my perspective, right, I don't have the facts to support the reduction, and I'm just not comfortable with
I'll
it.
give you one later on that you can
And that's,
have.
Okay.
and that's fine, but in fairness, I think we always knew this point was coming. So I agree on some things, big things, you say, okay,
Right,
it's
but
not the right time.
At our
but-
meeting before, I think it was the 18th of December, right, that's when we went through and we made global reductions to certain lines, right? Like the conferences and the travel and that type of thing.
We left it open for tonight. That was the
Yep.
intent.
Yep.
What we did, so we said, when we're looking at the whole budget.
Agree, when you
The
look at the
whole
aggregate.
package, town and school, and here's where we're at, and what we're looking for increases. and-
Agree.
All right, hearing no further discussion, 2,600, 2,699, plant operations and maintenance, a reduction of $23,000. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Let's double check. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right, the motion passes 5-4-0. So there's a reduction of $23,000. All right, 2,700, 2,799, student transportation.
Do we have a new number on that, Madam Chairman? We
new-
added $49,000.
We
in.
did add 49,000.
Your new number is 98310.
98310.
$983,010, right?
$980,310.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
$980,310.
That's what I had.
Okay.
Sorry. Did I miss that? I don't think I did.
Okay, I would like to move to reduce that by $26,000.
Second.
And that one, I'll tell you the rationale on. When we initially talked about sped transportation, Andrew came in with a number of
Hi.
76,000, I think it was. And I said, well, my number's 50, so I'll go with 50, and could have gone either way, went with 50. I'm ready to go back to the 76 number that you had all the rationale for.
I need to find my page now.
Which would bring that number down to $954,310.
This is one I can support.
Okay?
Yep, you're spot on.
So that was to,
This is, if we're looking for a page, Cindy, in the budget, is that what you're looking
is
for?
page 1 on the transportation budget?
It's actually page 2, it carries over.
Again, this is a function code reduction, but I'm just telling you what the rationale is.
All right, any further discussion?
Yeah, the question I was gonna ask is originally, earlier tonight, there were 2 buses that were cut, and there was one added back. So
And
this will
that's-
decrease it by more?
I'm sorry, it increased the 930,000 by 49,000, which brought it up to 980.
Right, but you're
Thousand.
decreasing out 26 of the 49 that was added back in.
Did I subtract that wrong?
No?
What's your question? We add-
My question is, earlier tonight,
we added a bus
We added
into
a
the
bus.
function. Yep,
let me finish, please.
I'll try.
Ah,
I'll try.
Okay. We added a bus back in. Originally, there were two cut, but we added one back in. That was for 49 and some
Right.
changes, I recollected.
Right.
Now you're cutting an additional 26.
I'm reducing the sped transportation by 26,000, which was the original motion we had when we did this budget.
It's not, we
So it
added
is-
to
It
regular.
had nothing to do with the 10 buses or 9 buses.
Thank you. That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
And this is based upon the actual usage for that transportation line, not to do with the number of buses.
And should this motion pass, that's still a net increase of about $24,000.
So we can get half.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the 2,700, 2,799 student transportation line, a reduction of $26,000, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? So the motion passes 7-0.
That new line, Madam Chair, is $954,310.
Yep, okay, thank you.
30,000 to go, Bill.
I'm sorry?
You got 30,000 to go?
Not me.
Oh, okay.
I'm done.
All right, 2,800, 2,999, support services, central and other. Any motions there?
I'd like to make a motion for to remove $31,730.
Second.
That reduction represents the salary increases that the town was so kind to point out to us that we left in the school budget, that left an inequity between the school and the town. As I said previously, I was going to remove that, make a motion to remove that, to provide that equity.
All right, I believe the pool was for 30,000.
Pardon?
I believe-
$31,730.
Is that the pool?
That's the pool.
Okay.
It's 110 salaries, page 51,
Okay.
2900 series.
Any further discussion?
So, yeah. Refresh me what this is again, sorry.
So after we left this in the budget, Mr. Byron pointed out that after we had said that they should go to warrant article for these increases, we left them in the budget. And therefore, he brought up the argument that we were being unequitable between the town and the school. This just fixes that inequity.
Which page is it on?
Page 51 under salaries.
51 in salaries and benefits. My understanding, that I do actually believe there's a difference between what the town and the school are doing. The $30,000 on the town side is to implement a change in wage schedule. This is a pool, this isn't to change the wages, these are wages that already exist, and this is to add incremental, whatever the
I'm not arguing the
analysis
purpose.
is.
I'm just saying that this was brought up by the town, and I think it was just an item that we need to address as a committee.
I understand, and that's why I'm saying, I see it as two different things. One is a wage, a plan that they want to fund year one. This is different, this is a pool for an existing wage plan.
I see them
not-
both as
not
an
a new-
increase
not a new.
in salary for non-bargaining employees.
And I see him the same also because Mr. Byron said next year, most likely, there'll be more money coming in for the existing wage plan, which will then be a pool for an existing wage plan that we already discussed, as it will be coming back to the Budget Committee. So I guess for consistency, and I believe it's the right thing to do.
You suggesting that this should go to a warrant article?
Yes.
Yes.
That provides the equality between the towns and the school.
Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of 2,800, 2,999, support services, central and other, a reduction of $31,730, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? So the motion passes 5-4-0. see, moving down, 4,200 site improvement.
I'd like to make a motion to reduce it by $1. I withdraw my motion, I'm just kidding.
He's the comedian today.
It's funny, because I was gonna do that for food service, to reduce it to 0.
All right, moving on, 4,600 building improvement services.
Rationale?
I don't have one.
Any motions there? All right, and that brings us to the bottom. All right,
So should we vote? Bottom line appropriation,
yep, let me just,
whatever it is.
I have 21,031,613.
you have what, 21 million,
31,613.
31,613? Oh, 31,000.
I don't know. You can check me on that. but-
Yeah, let me just,
I don't have it. Yeah. Sure. Okay.
Maybe it's yours.
It is.
I don't think we did.
Somewhere. Thought I saw it somewhere.
I should recall seeing it. Up in town.
Oh, I thought the school had theirs done too.
It's not in the warrant article.
It's not in the warrant article, that's what I saw. Did we get the default budget numbers?
yes,
For the school?
yes.
What about it?
Just asking if we received it from the school.
Yeah, we've got that.
Tell me.
All right,
Vote in
I
favor of this.
might have missed
Do you have it?
something.
On mine.
Oh, I did miss something. 21,031,613, yes, yep. That's the bottom line number I get as well.
Great.
All right,
Yep.
then, is there a motion to approve the bottom line number of the budget?
Yeah. 613.
21,170,065.
We're still lower?
21,170,065.
Thank you. That's
Last
the
one we
default.
saw, but that can change.
Right.
Oh, of the default, yes. That is the right number.
170,065.
The proposed budget's still lower?
It is still lower. By
So
like
again,
40.
for the record, what's our new bottom line?
21,031,613.
21,031,613.
I am, I'm not supporting this budget.
Then vote no.
I don't know, I don't want to support the default budget.
All
There's
right,
new spending in the proposed.
if there's,
There's some new
is there a motion to approve the bottom line number, the budget committee's bottom line number?
A motion to approve 21,031,613.
Is there a second? Been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the budget committee's bottom line number, 21,031,613, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain?
I'm abstaining.
So it is 6
I'm not
to
voting for the
1.
proposed budget.
Motion passes. And that will be the number we bring to the hearing on next Thursday. All right, warrant articles. We had new warrant articles distributed late this afternoon.
Article 1, what we just voted on,
Right,
so we now have an official vote count for that.
Yep.
Correct.
yes, so that is, 621 is our official recommendation. All right, Article 2, shall the Litchfield School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $79,535.57 for the purpose of funding a full-time district technology database administrator position to support the new student information system. And there's no estimated tax impact on that. However, too many pieces of paper. What was our estimated tax impact on that?
Didn't do that separately. About 10 cents.
10 cents? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so our estimated, and it's up to the school district to come up with theirs, but that was the one that Bill worked up. Any discussion?
Yeah, what is the penalty if this position doesn't get filled?
I'm sorry?
What is the penalty if this position does not get approved?
We don't implement the new student information system. The Student Information System Committee, the district-wide committee of administration and teachers and support staff that we struck, we'd looked at all of the systems that are in relative use in the state, identified 3 systems that matched relatively well. We eliminated one and then looked at Infinite Campus and followed Aspen in some great detail, including vendor presentations, follow-ups, site visits to 2 different schools, over 10 people in both visits. And the takeaway was the 2 finalists were very good products. Infinite Campus seems to be better fit for a small district, including having less, hopefully, less requirement for back-of-house support. The folks that we talked to in the district, well, one of the places we went to was Bow, and Bow has now, they're doing a very nice job with the implementation. They are using more capacity, significantly more, in their implementation with 1 elementary, 1 middle school, 1 high school, and roughly 1,500 students. So the structure is identical. They have a director, an assistant director, and 3 part-time tech supports in the building. So that's 2 full-time, relatively high-end, 1 server, 1 database person, 1 server-based person and director, 1 database person, back-of-house support for the other stuff. We actually have more computers in use than they do, and we would be a notch down from that level of support. It was the unanimous recommendation of the 12 people in the committee that we not even attempt the migration to their database without the position.
So what is the economic penalty if you don't do that?
We just don't know from week to week whether or not the student information system is going to work, and we're not going to be able to make the strides going forward that we need to improve the education the way that we want to.
So it's not an economic penalty.
There's no economic penalty. There's a learning penalty. There's an inefficiency penalty.
Inefficiency.
I mean, we're in a system that, second day of school this year, basically said, teachers, you can't use your student information system to take attendance, so take it by hand and then type it in later. The day before, we were going to run report cards. It looked like we weren't going to be able to run report cards in 1 semester at the high school. The next semester, GMS was saying, the system is down, we can't run it. I mean, it's an antiquated system. It's not well supported. They're not trying to compete. They have a client base, and they'll be there until everybody finally moves off it or they get bought out because they have a client base to sell.
So if you don't do this next year, you're stuck with what you have now.
Try to patch it together.
And you'll have to work with it.
Yep.
Okay.
So is this to get the system up and running or will this position no longer be necessary once we have the learning curve covered, or will this be a permanent position?
The
from
board
here on out?
asked that question, and my response was, I think it'll be needed definitely for at least 2 years, and then we would have to see at that point in time. we're talking about needing this position just to go in with a relatively minimal level of functionality. So a true relational database with complete data access, being able to take attendance, discipline records, do web-based grading, which everybody else on the planet can do already in an integrated system, some learning management functionality. But before we get into learning management would probably be a year 2 implementation. If we got into year 1, the first thing besides the basic functionality to look at is the parent portal that would give parents the ability to find out instantly. And instead of what we're on now, which is teachers have 2 weeks after they get something to grade it, and then there's a 2-week cycle where we have to roll those grades over manually, so you can get a 3-week delay. Well, if you get a freshman who's not getting their assignments in as a parent, you're 3.5 weeks behind getting that information. So this is one of the major things, and that would be part of the year 1 rollout. You literally, Infinite Campus, one of the distinguishers was they have a really good mobile app that works on both Android and Apple. I'm not sure if it'll be set for email updates or not, so a grade gets posted there. We're talking to folks in Bow, and they were, we talked to somebody in Bow whose kids were in Londonderry. We talked to somebody in Londonderry whose kids were in Bow, and they both said, if my kid's late for class, I know it, and I know it instantly. If my kid doesn't pass an assignment, I know it. And tightening up that connectivity between the teacher, the parent, the kid, and also the connectivity between teacher, parent, kid, and the special ed teacher, who's the case manager as well. The two of the big out-of-the-box improvements to the system.
My only concern is if we go into this with the idea that it's going to be, sunsetted after 5 years and positions don't go away. Once it's here, it's here.
I can't promise that it would go away at all.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, this could very well be bare bones.
Okay.
I mean, if we're going to do this and take away some of the other machines, we could probably do without it in 2 years. But we'd be using less technology than we are now. And the problem is, we want to go to one-to-one technology at the high school.
So this is a computer person, right? This is, and by the way, that 79,000 and change, that's salary, benefits, taxes, everything for a whole year.
I think they're probably the 52 or 54,000 base salary, and then the assumption of a 2-person healthcare and the benefits package.
Now, I was at the meeting last night, I heard you talk to this, so it's not a matter of, the decision is more made, do we agree, and do the voters agree that the new student information system is important, because you can't get that without this. So if you answer yes to that, then this is necessary. So to further on the question Kerry said, after 2 years, obviously, there's a huge ramp up, right? Everybody has to learn. There's a lot to go in to set everything up, plug in all the information. And you mentioned after 2 years, well, then you might want to go to one-on-one computing. That's something different, right?
Well, yes and no. One of the things that are built into the model is a learning management system that will support the one-on-one computing. Now, the other thing is, we're quite understaffed right now. We've got 2 people to the 3 buildings and the number of machines that we're running now. The plan is to pilot one-to-one computing at the high school with incoming freshmen next year. Hopefully at least 1 class in each of the core subject areas, because you need to get teachers who are ready to use the technology and use it well. The plan would be to go after that incoming freshmen, so this year's grade 7 class would come in with the technology. Now, is that district provide? Maybe. If it is, what would it look like? Probably something closer to what Mr. Peebles is describing. Could it be at least a purchase where students pay for it or parents pay for it over time? I think we're reaching the point where the cost almost becomes a no-brainer. If you can get something that will meet the students' needs across 3 to 4 years for $300 or $400 that would allow them to do this, I think you get the support of the vast majority of parents, especially if you can do it in a flat cost. So I don't see the one-to-one as being potentially a huge technology cost on the student end. but you have to decide if you're going to support those machines or not, because potentially you're looking at another 400-plus laptops in play.
huge.
So 2 years from now, you've got another 200 laptops in play. So while you may be ramping down somewhat on the back-of-house database server side, you're increasing your node density because you're going to have a lot of kids with 2 devices that they're going to be connected with their phone and their laptop. So you got to support that infrastructure and then the end user infrastructure as well. So as you increase one set of capacities and may need to support it less, you're now getting the level of technology use that you want, which requires more technology. I think, though, that if you look at districts of comparable size, those 3 positions, 3 full-time positions, one kind of a junior position, a server person, and a database person, would meet our needs. I don't see any reason to extend beyond that, quite honestly. But we would be able to step down from it after 2 years. The strongest that I could say would be maybe. I really don't think so. I think this is going to be the requirement for that many machines and that much computing over this period of time if we want to go in that direction.
As this,
Ray, you've got some experience. Does that sound?
What's that?
I say, does that sound unreasonable?
No, you heard the rattling of my head going, oh my God, you're gonna have 400 machines to support here, and you're not gonna do it with 3 people. Just saying.
but as this, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, as the town was stating the other night, they've got, when you talk about it, let's call it all the users you could have in play at one time. If you had the town, the fire department, if every fire department guy was on there, all the police officers was in, the whole staff at the town hall, you don't got 60 people. You know, they don't have 60 users, and they need one person to support that. So the school's gonna need, they're talking about 3. I guess my only concern with this is that we don't see the cost of the student information system broken out here in this warrant with in the position. I raised that concern to you when we were talking, was it should be all rolled up. You should have scraped the stuff out of the budget, was the student information system, the costs, the software, everything, and tied that in with the person so that we knew for a fact that we're going to hire this person and we were going to roll out the student information system. We're going to get this person. We're not 100% sure that's going to happen.
Priced out and got quotes on both Aspen and Infinite Campus. And Aspen was actually a little bit cheaper. Both of the annual subscription costs were less than what we're doing now, and we would save money on the stipends that we're using now at each of the 3 schools to support Edline, because once you do the original training by Christmas of next year, whatever year we start it, then it becomes pretty straightforward. And one of the advantages that we do have is that everybody is in the middle school and high school use Edline, so everybody's in the same system. So migrating a whole group of people from one system to another system is a whole lot easier than taking people on 6 or 7 systems and migrating into that one. So we're actually anticipating that there would be a modest saving of all of the other costs related to the entire student information system. And the only increase is going to be that one position. And that's based on quotes that we received.
That includes your consulting time.
I did include that cost comparison for the board because they asked those questions. I can try to find it here based on the original numbers if you want to.
That's fine. It was just something that, as I said before, I said I support the fact that you need to move forward with this because I feel it's important. I just would have liked to have seen it all bundled, but you're saying we have a savings overall, so we can expect to see that in future budgets. I think you're going to be light on people in the end here with this one-to-one computing initiative.
Yeah, but we're talking about something different because this specifically says
Moves forward.
student information system. So I understand when we do one-on-one computing, you'll need the person, but this says student information system. So what I'm thinking is this is not a permanent position. We could turn it to permanent once we move to something else.
That functionality will always be there. But, I mean, if you're talking about supporting this much infrastructure and this many end users with 3 positions, everybody's working cross-platform. Everybody's got some play in servers, everybody's got some play in end user support, you know. So the title that's with it is a few words that hopefully make sense, because its main function and the increase is primarily to support that student information system. But if you actually wrote out the job description, it would probably take you half a page. That wouldn't sell real well in a warrant article.
Will the one-to-one computing be coming as a warrant article in the future? Or are we just rolling that out? The one-to-one computing, because I foresee there being there's already money to increase our server capacity, so there is cost associated with it. Are we asking the voters before we move fully to the one-to-one? The one-to-one, I mean.
That's
is
a future, though.
Well,
That's-
he's saying that we're gonna roll it out now, right? We're rolling out some kids getting
We're
devices?
still hoping to implement the one-to-one pilot this year when students do the registrations. So the bring your own device to policy, I'm hoping that we'll have it revised and ready to go to the next board meeting on the 21st.
We're not worried about some kids saying, I can't afford one, therefore the school must provide
No,
it?
because this is a voluntary pilot the first year. So we're hoping we'll have enough, one section, so we'll have 5 sections of English, 5 of science, 5 of, all right, and so we're hoping to create at least one class where, we'll identify the specifications across a broad range and say, you need a device that has this much capability that will be able to do these things, all right? And you agree by clicking this button to register in this version of the course versus that you will provide that. And so when the teacher builds the course around the notion that they're going to be able to email you stuff, you're going to be able to log in, you're obligated to it. And so that would be year 1, and then we would look at year 2. So what we do the first year, the plan is to do that with the freshmen. The next year, that group moves up as sophomores. And so it allows us to both extend the cost of teacher technology across multiple years and also stagger the PD, because you can't train everybody at the same time. We have some really good leaders in the building, but this will allow us to work with a relatively small number of teachers who are teaching freshman classes. So that $15,000 is in the budget for that already this year. That would also put the teacher technology to support this on a flat level structure. So a laptop, you've got 4 years, you've got roughly 4 years of life, and that becomes a flat cost of ownership. But in this case, what you would have is that group moving up. And so you're scaffolding that first group of teachers and supporting them. They become then part of that support for the second group of teachers, third group, and so on. And so the incoming freshmen this year would be a pilot group. But my guess is that they would add sections over time.
Yeah, I worry that you're gonna end up with, well, you have one class, but 3 classes want it, and then you tell some kid, oh, you can't take it, and then you have a lawsuit because
As long as we
equal
have it to
access
a round
to-
number class, we should be able to support it, because we have a relatively small number of teachers. So we have one pair of teachers in the humanities group that teaches 3 sections of freshmen this year, so they could handle that.
Will going one-to-one start eventually reducing like textbooks, papers, printing, a bunch of miscellaneous other items in other places?
Eventually, yes, but, and I see Ray shaking his head, I have the same concerns that he has. When I look at the cost differential of buying online subscriptions and downloadable stuff, the savings at this point in time is still fairly marginal. And you can't budget for it, quite honestly. I met with, a few years ago, the New England Regional Apple rep who said that their programs were going to guarantee a maximum price of $15 per student per year for their textbook series when they came out. I never saw him again, and I never heard that line again. And I haven't heard anything close to that in 4 years. So the publishing industry is manipulated by a very small number of companies that have a lot of the market. And I don't see the move. I can see this being more about improving access and quality of instruction. I don't see this as a bankable resource saving in at least the next 3 to 4 years, quite honestly. I don't see it going up, but I don't see it going down either.
All right, so back to Article 2. It's all intertwined, but now let's get back to the specific article.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this position?
My only comment is that I'm looking at an $80,000 warrant article here, and then another $80,000 warrant article, and then a $50,000 warrant article, and I've got to make some choices. I'm going to support this particular one, but when I look at the impact on the taxpayer of these articles, I have a real problem with supporting all three of them, but I'll support this one.
Madam Chair, do we have a motion on the floor?
So I believe we do how do we? To
I'd
recommend?
like to make a motion to recommend Article 2.
Thank you. I read it, and
Second.
then, yes, it's been made and seconded.
No, we
Okay.
didn't have one.
Okay.
Sorry,
Thank you.
can I just ask clarification for Bill, something?
Yep.
You just mentioned, Bill, there's 3 warrant articles here, and they total X amount of money. So you'd have a tough time, like, for all 3 of them, supporting all 3.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
No, I'm just curious because, and I'm just asking for clarifications on those going forward, so it'll help them next year. You must have brought up about $1 million, $2 million worth of warrant, items that should be on warrant articles, tonight alone. Or within this budget process. Oh, that should be on a warrant article, that should be on a warrant article. So if the school board decides next year to do it a little differently, and we come in here with like 25 warrant articles, $3 million, you wouldn't support it, right?
we're looking at a total budget, operating budget, and warrant articles.
I understand.
Operating budgets we can control, warrant articles we can't control, we can't change those whatsoever. But the whole total is what the taxpayer is going to have to pay for.
I realize that, but-
And that's part of our job, to look at that and what is
I know,
reasonable.
but you don't answer my question. You keep suggesting different items alone today.
All of which I-
The 4th grade teacher, the math tutor, I'm just saying, those are just 2. You mentioned many that should be on warrant articles, even told Ray, hey, that should be on a warrant article, is that what you're saying? So if
Doesn't
that were
mean
the
it's to
case,
vote
and we
for it,
came
though.
to you with a laundry list of warrant articles rather than having the items in the budget,
It would depend upon what the total looks like. I mean,
I think this
see why you
committee,
don't understand that.
Positions and leases were the only warrant articles
Madam
that come
Chair, I
up.
think,
Yeah,
this committee.
Excuse me.
Oh, go ahead.
We're back to where we started a long time ago with the total proposed budget being so large, and these just add to that, and that is part of our job, okay? Next year, if you come in with an operating budget that is more reasonable than what we saw the first time, and some warrant articles that make a lot of sense.
So do you have a
And then the
dollar-
bottom line is, it's a reasonable total.
so in your mind, do you have a dollar amount as far as the total you're looking for from a budget and warrant articles together?
Well,
Is that
you
what
can't predict that. And in all honesty, at the beginning, a year ago, we sat here and decided, do we want to come up with a dollar target? And we decided not to, and the school board actually said, we're not even going to honor it. We don't want a dollar target.
I'm
So,
just asking if that's what he has in his mind, because
and that's a question for next year. Andrew, did you have a comment?
No, well, yes, but Mr. Spencer already addressed it for the most part. My only addition to that is this committee, I think, majority would prefer it all going to warrant article, right? And you're right, several items as we went through the budget
Many
process, whatever, were recommended to be placed to article, and some were, and some were not, and that was the school board's purview. That doesn't mean that we have to vote in favor of those articles.
I understand that.
All right, any further discussion on Article 2, which is the position? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending Article 2, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, motion passes 900.
It goes in a warrant article.
Yes.
Makes
So
sense.
just as you were saying,
That's right.
making the motion, I found the numbers.
Benefits everybody.
Total cost right now, based on hosted by Infinite Campus, would be a savings of about $6,000.
Okay.
You're hosting this out?
If we host it out as savings, if we hosted it, the savings is more, but you got the upfront server costs that we need.
Yeah, that's okay.
right.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion.
All I'm
to
telling you is we
recommend
we
Article
quoted it both
3.
ways, both are savings.
All right, there's a motion to recommend Article 3. Is there a second?
Second.
Let me read it. Shall the Litchfield School District vote to raise an appropriate sum of $80,000 to enhance exterior video capacity to include main entrance and perimeter of the building, new call boxes, systems for visitors seeking entrance to the building during school hours, and exterior audio enunciators for emergency broadcast at Griffin Memorial School, Litchfield Middle School, and Campbell High School?
Let me just offer my input first on this one, please. This stuff's always great to get. I mean, obviously, anything for security is good, but on Bill's point, I was thinking the exact same thing. I'm not going to vote yes or no on this one. I'm going to abstain. You know, let the parents and the voters decide if they want to increase safety, increase call box, enunciators, cameras, all of that stuff. I mean, some people believe that really does enhance safety. Some people believe not going to do a darn thing. So I'm not going to, for those that do listen or take seriously the Budget Committee individual members' opinions on these things, and there's some out there, some people, they choose to do what they want. I'm not going to offer an opinion one way or another on this one.
Any further discussion?
I'm actually going to abstain from it too, but for a different reason. I'd hoped to see some kind of documentation that substantiated that number. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I don't feel, I abstained the other night because I hadn't seen the proposal and wasn't comfortable with it, and I want to vote yes for this, but I don't know that I can because I don't have enough information.
I don't recall receiving a request for the proposal. I believe the night that we discussed this, there was a breakdown based on the proposal that was given to the district. I don't recall receiving a request for the hard copy of it.
No, we didn't have a breakdown. My notes say actual proposal for this cost, Phase 3, inside the building, so this was Phase 2. Their rationale was can't control entrance at GMS, LMS, can't see who's coming in, need better lighting. Those are my notes. So there was a question about additional costs that night,
But no request for the actual proposal?
other than at this meeting?
Right.
No.
Well, yeah, I thought there had been.
Yes, I'm on the fence with this too. This is one I just don't know. There was a committee that was put together to formulate a plan, and I wasn't part of it, so.
Voting no as a taxpayer on this one, just not this year. I think we've left plenty of things in. I agreed with a lot of things Kerry said earlier. I just thought the cuts were too much, and I think this one here is, in my opinion, may have to hold off another year. As much as I think it's a great idea, I don't think this year.
Do you want me to send you a formal request so that we have that information for the budget hearing next Thursday?
Sure, you can send me an email.
I will be voting in favor of this because I think the security of the school is important. And secondarily, I think that we owe the voters a vote one way or the other as to where we stand on these articles.
I fully agree.
I support the idea. I mean, I can't say that I don't know exactly what's in the scope. I don't know.
I support the idea too, so maybe do leave it up to the voters, but
And it will be left up to the voters.
Because is the budget committee voting for the number or for the idea? I thought we had this discussion before.
Both.
And so if I have to vote for both and I can only vote for half, what do you want me to do?
Madam Chairman, let's vote and see where we end up.
All right, is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of recommending warrant Article 3, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Aye.
Any abstain?
Aye.
Want a hand count?
3, 2, 4.
2-4.
3, 2, 4.
I thought it was.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that the Budget Committee recommends Article 4.
Excuse me, what was the count again?
3, 2, 4.
Okay. Who were the against?
So the
No.
motion is recommended by a 3 to 2 vote.
And just the
That's
two
a no.
of us voted no?
Second.
Andrew, okay.
I voted in favor, so we'll see.
There's been
You're going
a,
too fast for me.
there's been a
I got it now.
motion by Frank Byron, seconded by Brian Bork for Article 4, which is the paved playground.
It is pavement, by the way, just to clarify.
Can I ask a question on this one?
Right
And
ahead.
that is reclaim and resurface. They're different things. When you reclaim something, that's basically taking all the hot top right off and regrading and putting dirt down, appropriate filler and all that stuff, and then new hot top on top of it. Resurface is you're basically grinding the top layer away and then putting the new. Which is it? Both?
No, I'd say that's a good point.
Oh.
You're reclaiming.
And I guess my question is, do you have any idea how many square feet it is? And the reason I'm asking is,
we
The
had that.
town just went through and came to the budget committee with a proposal to do the fire department. That's going to cost us for 3,500 square feet about $70,000. That includes a drain in there as well. So I'm trying to understand,
This is gonna
I'm
be-
guessing this must have to just be resurfacing.
That's reclaimed.
No, it's reclaim,
Reclaim.
grade, you know, you
Regrading.
haul out the excess, you're recycling the existing parking lot and making reusable gravel out of it.
Right.
Actually, we had the quote for that.
You had the quote, you saw the quote.
It was a very
It's
good
11.
number.
Yeah, it
It's-
is a good number, too.
Maybe they should have.
It's actually taken, it has to be, there's some gradient, that areas
Right.
that need to be filled, there's some that need to be pulled out.
Yep, yeah, there's always excess material that gets hauled out and then make room for your 3.5 inches of asphalt, whatever it was a good.
I don't think it's quite as big as the fire department area. I'm just
I don't
thinking
know.
it, formulating in my brain,
It's
but
slightly smaller.
And they don't have to
Yeah.
work around a building or
it's just
obstacles.
square, it's a rectangular block.
The septic tank.
But it is a reclaim, but
That was at the school.
I'd take the wording out of
Yeah.
resurface.
I mean, the fire department.
Right, exactly, that's the cost difference.
Like what, reclaim?
Sounds like.
I just say reclaim,
And repave.
It's a reconstruction,
Right,
basically.
We don't
Resurface is
change the
sufficient.
wording.
no, I'm just making
Yeah.
a suggestion to the
Alright.
school board.
We
But I don't know whether that, I'm saying it now because I don't know whether if that would trip off another budget committee review of the article because the wording changed.
I would tell you that most people wouldn't know the difference between reclaiming and resurfacing, Frank.
It's fine.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor of recommending warrant Article 4, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Passes 900. Just to verify, I'm sending an email, the Budget Committee would like the background and breakout of the request for warrant Article 3 for $80,000.
You already have it.
Thank you. I'll send that just so you have it.
Excuse me.
Alrighty. Any further discussion on warrant articles? I have to find my agenda because it's gotten mixed up with everything.
If the school board were to reconsider, to add some additional warrant articles based on the discussion tonight, when would we possibly see something like that?
Our next meeting is the 16th, 21st.
After our hearing.
That would be too late. It has to be before next Thursday at our hearing, so if the school board wants to do that, they're gonna have to call a special meeting.
Right.
All right. Member input, new business, hearing presentation.
Good luck!
Nice job.
We,
Chair?
yes.
Before you move on, I just want to thank folks, third time round. I think I've gotten to know the group more every year, and I appreciate your time, your consideration. I really do believe that you understand the challenges that we face and what we're trying to do, and we have good, honest conversations about how best to strike this balance, and I appreciate your honesty and your openness and your trust. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
I just wanted to find out from the committee, obviously I'll put together some ideas, a draft, send it around, much like we did the letter for HLN.
Take it out.
My understanding from earlier in the year was we wanted it to be more of a narrative about what's the difference, what's the increase, what are people getting, why is it up, why is it down? So that's the direction I'm heading in. In terms of backup information, obviously, we'll have our version of what it looks like for tax increases. I may put a little history in there, because I know I've had some people ask me history after the HLN letter. So that's sort of the direction I'm thinking.
I think that's the right way to go. If you put yourself in the position of the voter and what they want to know, they don't really need to see a lot of graphs and all that sort of stuff. They really got to understand what's in there, what we think is in there, and what they're going to be doing. So I think that's the way to go.
And how they get to, I mean, you know, some people, I mean, look, a lot of people know what's going on, but they have to understand that there's also a reduction in revenue, which, you know, which is
Well,
the
that's
reason
all.
why the taxes go up. So it needs to be explained for those. Look, I've learned over the years, there are some people that feel intimidated, and they're afraid to ask questions and afraid to step up. So it's the job of all the people elected to help make that process simple and easy. You know, I had no clue 8 years ago, and it was a learning curve for me, but I sat through every excruciating meeting, and it took time through deliberatives before I was comfortable to get up and speak. And I know it's hard for people to believe that it is, but it took me a while.
I think that really,
Chris?
It did, it really did. I sat quiet for the first year or so.
I think that's well borne out by all our history here. If you look back at the older town meetings, when everybody was there, everybody that could come, came. Most people sat there, listened and voted, and there were the same people that got up and spoke every year. I mean, you almost predict it. It was like if you were to put it on a sheet, these are the people and this is what they're gonna talk about. So,
We need to invite more people into the system, and it's gonna take years to get there, but little a year.
I have to tell you, one thing I'd love to see is stop televising it on the cable channel.
So
they-
people had to come.
So people had to come to see it. I really think that, and I talk about disenfranchising, I think it's disenfranchising when people sit home, watch it on cable TV, and don't participate in the process. When when even a smaller percentage of the town actually could come in and change line items up and down, you know, it would be better if we packed the auditorium and we had a broader cross-section of folks. I think we would have a better opinion, you know, of what the people wanted. It would help us, certainly help guide us. I mean, we look at last year's vote or the year before that and say what the history is, but, I mean, having the people turn out and participate at the deliberative session would be a much better, bigger message.
Let's serve pizza and beer. No, I'm only kidding, I'm only kidding.
It's a great idea because it can't be on school property.
So let's have it over at town hall.
With the beer? 'Cause you
It's
can
the
do
beer
soda.
part, yeah.
All right. Anything else for member input, new business?
Yeah, just a quick question. Anybody know what the filing period is?
Filing period.
Clerk office?
Yes, it's the 21st through the 30th
Yeah, that sounds
of
right.
January.
21st to 30th?
Yes, that was confirmed with Mr. Hope yesterday.
Okay.
Are you up to date?
I have it on.
Oh, okay, this probably has it on it. Filing period, yep, 21st. Last filing period,
He's up for the budget.
January 30th,
Till
Friday. So it's from Wednesday to the following after Friday.
Haven't made up my mind.
All right, any other input? Public input. And you know, I was kind of hoping last Tuesday and, or 2 days ago and today that we'd actually get some people.
It was a good article you wrote. I was hoping to.
I think I've managed to encompass everybody's changes. If nothing else, then you will get some emails between now and next Thursday, but next Thursday, our hearing starts at 7. I'm assuming we're in the auditorium, because that's where we always hold it.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.